For 2 years now, I've been doing these things called Manga Nuzlockes, where I take a character from the Pokemon Adventures manga and try to beat a Hardcore Nuzlocke with their usually pretty awful teams. Today, we're visiting the Unova and Kalos regions to see how those characters would perform, and these two regions have a pretty clear pattern of the guy character using a pretty awesome, super powerful team, and the girl character using whatever's left, I guess. And don't even get me started on the leftovers of the leftovers. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy. Can you beat Pokemon Black using only Black's manga team? That's a question I've been asking myself ever since I started this series, because throughout his journey in Unova, Black only catches a total of 5 Pokemon. Well, it's more like 4 because Rufflet doesn't evolve until after the level cap of the Elite Four. We're also playing with Hardcore Nuzlocke rules, meaning if a Pokemon dies, it's gone forever and cannot be used again. So with this limited team, a single death is basically a reset, meaning our gameplay has to be flawless. With all these restrictions in place, can we become champions of the Unova League without losing any team members? Let's jump back into the manga canon and find out as we pick up our starter. We go with Tep the Tepig, and in the manga, Tep was given to Black by Professor Juniper just like in the games. He actually changed his name with each evolution, which is super cool and kind of underutilized. It never made sense to me that like Green's Wigglytuff was still called Jiggly or Crystal Xatu was still called Nati. Also, another little detail I love is the box the starters was delivered in is the same as the one in game. Black opens the box to find the 3 starters who all have their own rivalry going on. They all start fighting each other and Tepig ends up getting ganged up on and bopped really hard by Oshawott. The little guy runs away and Black chases after him, finding him at the top of a tree. They bond over how they both have a cold, and in this moment, Black decides to choose Tepig to be a starter. Struck by this act of kindness, Tepig turns around to run into Black's arms, but he's suddenly hit by something invisible. Whatever the attack was, they were coming so fast that they couldn't even see who their attacker was. On the ground, Sharon and Bianca were worried, asking Juniper to help them as the adult in the situation, but Juniper only grins and mutters a single word: "Good." What exactly is going on and what is Juniper up to? Can Black even make it out of this situation and protect his new friend? I guess you'll have to keep watching to find out. So with our single team member, I'm gonna be honest, Gym 1 is basically impossible. Unless I reset a million times until we get perfect crit luck, it's not really worth it. So to make this run more realistic and to stay closer to the manga canon, I decided to replace the elemental monkey that you get to counter the gym with another encounter, that being Brav the Rufflet. In the manga, Black actually met Brav when he was only 5 years old. Him, Charon, and Bianca were out exploring the tall grass when Bianca was suddenly attacked by a wild Rufflet. Using his Muna's dream-eating abilities, Black was able to blank his mind to focus on what had just happened, and he realized that Bianca must have stepped on Rufflet's food, which is what angered the little guy. Black scoops up the remains of the Oran berries, offering them to Rufflet before our gang escapes. The next day, Black returns with Muna to capture Rufflet, and using a powerful psychic, they're able to knock him out of the sky before catching him in a Pokeball. And so, with our 2 team members, it's time to charge in and win our first badge against Cress. It's just our little Tep and Brav against the world, but can we pull it off? Cress leads with Lillipup, and I decide to start with Tep in order to preserve Brav's HP. We start the battle with an Ember, which is gonna be a 3-hit KO as Lillipup sets up with Workup. This boosts his attack, so a stab tackle could really hurt, but Tep manages to connect with the critical hit Ember, taking out the Lillipup before he can attack. That only leaves Panpour, so now it's time to switch out. Brav comes out to tank a water gun for his friend before outspeeding on the next turn and firing back with the wing attack. It's just shy of the 2-hit KO, so Panpour is able to set up with Workup. But it turns out that first one was a low roll because with another wing attack, Brav's able to seal the deal, taking out Panpour and winning us our first gym badge. With the badge secured, the real challenge begins as we're now able to use Cut outside battles. We can head back to the Dream Yard to make our way to this secret area where we've got some Team Plasma stuff to take care of. That's the perfect place too because another team member joins our squad, that being Musha the Muna. In the manga, Musha had one of the best gimmicks. Since Black had so many dreams and aspirations, his mind was constantly distracted left and right. So Muna's Dream Eating abilities would let Black filter out the irrelevant information so he could focus on the task at hand. For instance, when he and Tepig were being attacked at the top of the tree, Muna was able to help Black clear his mind to identify where the attacks were coming from. The effect created a bunch of hexagons in his vision as the irrelevant ones turned black and the critical ones turned white, leaving an outline of a Suwaddle. So by using Tepig's type advantage, he commanded him to blast away the attacker, saving the day as the 4 of them flew off to their next adventure. So with Musha added to the team, it's a quick trip over to the next city, although we do stop and help Charon out with Team Plasma. We're able to sweep through their Route 1 rodents with our powerful starter duo, and Tep even evolves into Pignite. In the manga, White had a female Tepig named... is it Gigi or Gigi? My brain says Gigi, but it's based off of Tepig, so that's a hard G, but Gigi sounds weird. Well, regardless, the two of them were often paired together for media shootings. When Tep was about to evolve, White panicked since their dynamic duo wouldn't be the same, and she started violently shaking Tep to prevent him from evolving. This caused Tep to develop severe brain damage, and he ended up in a mental asylum soon after. Nah, I'm just kidding. He didn't evolve yet, but in a fight against Berg, Black was losing the matchup, and he was forced to call on Tep to defeat Berg's Dwebble. He ended up evolving mid-battle to win the matchup, and Black gave him the new nickname Knight. So with our new team of 3, we arrive in Nacrene City to take on the next gym leader. The puzzle with the moving bookshelves isn't difficult, but man, the jiggle physics of these books is super realistic. I do take some time to brainstorm for the upcoming fight because Lenora's team has always been a struggle for me. But what isn't a struggle is today's sponsor, me. This is where my sponsor would go, if I had one. So here's a little interaction reminder for you. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to leave a like, and if you're not enjoying the video, that's alright too. I mean, you can't win them all, right? Maybe I can persuade you in the upcoming fight. It's definitely a stumper since Herdier's Intimidate is annoying, and Watchog's boosted Retaliate can easily take out a team member if I'm not careful. Lenora leads with Herdier, and I start with Brav. I want to preserve Tep's HP for the main threat in the back, so Brav's forced to take the attack drop. We fire off a wing attack, dealing a decent amount of damage after the debuff, as Herdier only uses Leer. We stay in for another wing attack, getting a much better damage roll this time, as Herdier now changes it up and goes for a takedown. That brings us to 9 HP, as the recoil brings the pup down to... that's gotta be 1 HP, right? This is always heal range for Lenora, so instead of wasting the turn with wing attack, I decide to set up a Leer, lowering her defense. That puts us in a great position to switch into Tep, as Herdier goes for a Retaliate. We tank it, and on the next turn, I decide to risk the crit and go for a workup. This boosts our attack, but it also gives Herdier an opportunity to fire off an attack, which ends up being takedown. We survive in the yellow, but our time to set up more has been cut short. Since Herdier's defense is lowered, we can use Flame Charge to boost our speed, which is just enough for the KO. Lenora sends out Watchog, who could outspeed and has the potential to tank a 2-hit arm thrust. But with the +1 speed, Tep eases our doubts by scoring a critical hit on the first one, guaranteeing our victory as we take out the rat, winning us the battle and our second gym badge. So with 2 victories under our belt, we set our sights on Castelia City as our next destination. We make our way across Sky Arrow Bridge, stopping a cannon event from happening along the way.
What a fucking... asshole.
And with that crisis averted, we now arrive in the big city, the Big Red Apple, where we make a beeline to change Tep's nickname, but right after that, we immediately head over to challenge Berg. With 2 of our team members having positive matchups against his team, I'm expecting this one to go over easily. He leads with Whirlipede, so it's time to start setting up with Knight. We go for workup, boosting our attack as Whirlipede only goes for a Screech. So with that free turn, we can take him out with a Flame Charge, boosting our speed in the process as Berg sends out Dwebble. And to play around Dwebble's sturdy, we go for an arm thrust, but the attack only connects 4 times. That lets Dwebble set up a sand attack, and while the -1 accuracy sucks, we still manage to take him out on the next turn. That only leaves Berg's Levani, but Knight's got that 20/20 vision and connects with the final flame charge, taking out the Mantis in one hit and winning us our 3rd gym badge. That lets us continue through the desert, but there's no new encounters yet. Instead, we head into Relic Castle to pick up the cover fossil, and by heading all the way back to Nacrene, we can revive it for our next team member, Costa the Tortuga. In the manga, Costa and Black did not get along. One time, when they were battling on the beach, Black sent him out and commanded him to use brine and aqua jet, but Costa instead started swimming into the ocean.
Bruh.
Black had to wade into the water to grab him, but that just goes to show how much they didn't like each other. Later on, in a tense battle against Clay, the lights in the arena went out, meaning no one could see anything. It was only Costa and Clay's Krokorok left, but Krokorok had a huge advantage since he could see in the dark. He landed a powerful bite into Costa's fin, dealing huge damage to the turtle, as all Black could do was watch helplessly. Krokorok was preparing another attack, and sensing where Costa was, he connected with another bite, but it turned out it was actually Black holding a rock above his head. He tanked the attack to allow Costa to stay safe, and although it hurt his arm, that gave Costa the opportunity to connect with the brine, taking out the crocodile and winning them the battle. From that moment on, Black and Costa became better friends, and he would go on to evolve into Caracosta in a battle against Bryson and his terrifying Beartic. So with our new team member, we've got to prepare for Elisa. She's another one of those difficult fights since her team using Volt Switch can be a little unpredictable. To prepare, I decided to evolve Musha into Musharna for the extra stats, and with the strategy cooked up, it's time to take on Miss Unova herself. She leads with Emolga, and we start the battle with our newly evolved Musha. Emolga immediately outspeeds and nails us with a pursuit, which I'm guessing is because the AI prioritized the super effective move. We fire back with the Psybeam, which is gonna be a 2-shot, and on the next turn, Emolga hits us with another pursuit, meaning we can pick off the first KO of the match while preserving most of our health. Elisa sends out her second Emolga, and this time, the AI decides to go for Volt Switch. That brings us to half, as Elisa brings out Zebstrika, but luckily, I decided to play things safe and go for Moonlight. That lets us heal 50% of our health, meaning we can stay very healthy. Zebstrika only goes for Spark, which we can comfortably tank as we fire back with a Yawn. That causes the AI to go for Volt Switch, and with only one Emolga left, that leaves her as a sitting duck for our Psybeam. Emolga tries to pick us off with a quick attack, but with Moonlights to keep us healthy, we can comfortably stay in as Emolga decides to Volt Switch again. And once again, that leaves Zebstrika as the sitting duck for our Psybeam. We even get the 10% confusion, so on the next turn, her horse hits itself in confusion as Musha finishes her off with the final Psybeam. And against her last team member, another Psybeam seals the deal, winning us the battle and our 4th gym badge. So with Elisa defeated, she helps us lower the drawbridge so we can make our way over to the next town. There's tons of wings that drop to help us with EV training, but other than that, there's nothing too eventful as we make our way across the Driftvale City. And after Knight handles the Team Plasma Grunts in cold storage, it's time to make our way underground to take on the next gym challenge. Clay leads with Krokorok, and I decided to start the battle with Costa. Our best physical option against him is Aqua Jet, which actually does more than I was expecting. In return, Krokorok goes for a Swagger, but it ends up missing. So one more Aqua Jet later, and that's a free KO on Clay's first Pokemon. He sends out Palpitoad next, and expecting the Bulldoze, I switch into Brav for the immunity. But Palpitoad randomly goes for a Muddy Water, which does nearly half to us. We luckily don't get the attack drop, so before going down, Brav can get off a Slash, bringing them to the yellow as we tank their next Muddy Water. That was definitely risky, but since we outspeed, that's a guaranteed KO on the Gross Frog before he can get off another attack. Clay sends out Excadrill last, and since we're so low health, we've gotta switch out. I send out Musha, whom we've been preserving in the back this whole time, to come in on full HP and tank a Rock Slide. On the next turn, Excadrill outspeeds and sets up a Hone Claws, but we can go for a Yawn to make him drowsy. I need as many free turns as possible to win this matchup, and on the next turn, Clay's AI decides he needs to set up another Hone Claws, so that's another free turn to use Psybeam. It does pathetic damage, but we need this little bit of chip for our plan. More importantly though, his Excadrill finally falls asleep, meaning we've got to act fast. I switch into Costa as the mole snoozes, and using his Aqua Jet to guarantee the outspeed, we can take out a chunk of his health as Excadrill continues to sleep. That looked a little risky for the 2-hit KO, so I need to use Brine, but that means Excadrill's gonna outspeed us if he wakes up. He stays asleep, but even if he does, since Costa has a sturdy ability, we're guaranteed to survive the attack. And with a boosted Brine, since Excadrill's under half health, we're able to take him out to win us our 5th gym badge. With our 5th badge, that means Clay's gonna open up Chargestone Cave for us, so we've got one more encounter here, that being Tula the Joltik. In the manga, White wanted Tep to be a duo with her female Tepig, so she asked him to be part of their next production. But when they got back to the set, they found everyone knocked out with the equipment strewn about everywhere. The production crew started blaming Black since he was the only outsider there, but in order to prove his innocence, he had Musha blank his mind to identify who the real culprit was. His vision shifted as the hexagons turned black, revealing the real perpetrator to be a Joltik. It turns out, everyone who was knocked out was holding equipment made of metal, and that's what was conducting electricity and caused them all to be knocked out. Brav helped track down the source of the electricity, and it turned out to be a Galvantula. He started setting up a web, but Tep set the web on fire and took him out before he could shock anyone else. So with Tula on the team, that's technically 2 hard counters against the next gym challenge Skylove, but the only unfortunate part is Joltik doesn't evolve until level 36, and our level cap is 35. And Tortuga doesn't evolve until level 37, so even though we have the type advantage, we're losing in the stat department. It could be a tough matchup as Skyla leads with Swoobat, and we start the battle with our unevolved Costa. She uses Amnesia, boosting her special defense, as we fire back with a Smackdown, dealing a sizable amount of HP. I wasn't very sure if the AI would heal here, so I decided to go for another Smackdown, but Swoobat outspeeds and uses Heart Stamp, which lands a flinch. Seeing as Skyla doesn't heal, I switch to Aqua Jet, taking out Swoobat's remaining HP. Skyla sends out Swanna, who for some reason decides to set up an Aqua Ring. We're of course going for Smackdown, which brings her down to below half, but I guess the Aqua Ring brings them closer to 50. On the next turn, she goes for a Bubble Beam, which is actually dealing significant damage, but we can tank it and fire back with another Smackdown for the KO. That only leaves her Unpheasant, but she can barely touch us. Unpheasant goes for an Air Slash, which we can tank on 9 HP, but we get flinched yet again. It was pretty stupid to stay in, since I thought Unpheasant's damage output was much worse, but at least we've got a second chance. I switch into Musha, who can easily tank the next Air Slash, and on the next turn, Unpheasant starts setting up a Razor Wind. We go for Rock Tomb because, admittedly, I did forget about Charge Beam, but we're totally safe to continue staying in. Between taking damage, we're able to heal back with Moonlight as we eventually take out our Giant Turkey with Psybeam, winning us the battle and getting us our 6th gym badge. That leaves Twist Mountain as our next obstacle, but since the level cap's gone up, we can get a few evolutions as we make our way through. Costa evolves into Caracosta, Tula evolves into Galvantula, and lastly, Knight evolves into Embor. I make sure to change his name in Castelia City, and with everything else taken care of, we can try our hand at the next gym leader. Bryson specializes in ice types, but since we again have 2 super effective matchups into his team with Bo and Costa, and this time fully evolved, I feel much better about this upcoming battle. He leads with Vanillish as we start the battle with Bo. My thinking was to start setting up with Workup against his ice cream cone since he won't really be able to touch us, but Vanillish goes for a mirror shot and he manages to get the 30% accuracy drop. I totally wasn't expecting that, but I decided to continue setting up for now to see what happens. We get off 3 Workups, and in that time, Vanillish sets up an Acid Armor and hits us with a Soft Astonish. Then, after we're done setting up, it's time to go on the offensive as we connect with a Heat Crash. I have to be honest, in the heat of the battle, I think I confused Heat Crash as having perfect accuracy, which doesn't happen until Generation 6 and only after the target uses Minimize. Regardless, we got pretty lucky there and we're able to take out his Vanillish, but against his Bear Tick, we actually miss our Arm Thrust and unfortunately get confused by Swagger. That means we're at +5 attack, so a self-hit will do way too much damage. I've got to switch out, so I go into Costa on the incoming Brine. That seems like all Beartic has to hit us with, so a few smackdowns later and we can take him out. Total side tangent, but on my first serious playthrough of Unova, when I decided to actually get good and beat the Elite Four for once, I remember I used a Beartic on my team and named him Desmond after that one ASDF movie bit. I think I had a Leaf Blade Superior, Darmanitan, and Drudigan. I think that was it, because I learned that if you run a team of 4 instead of a full team of 6, it's much better since they get all the XP and you can actually be at a decent level. Okay, side tangent over. Against Cryogonal, I switched back into Bow since we're still at nearly full HP, and a single Heat Crash takes care of him, winning us the battle and our 7th gym badge. We've come a long way, but the journey isn't over yet. Team Plasma is still at large, and the Pokemon League awaits us, so let's get geared up. After following them to Relic Castle with Alder, we can slow them down a bit before making our way east of Icarus City. We've got one last bridge to cross, that being the Tube Line Bridge that connects us to the next city. A cool detail here is the battle subway is actually running beneath our feet, which is something I didn't realize until this playthrough. We've only got one more badge to collect. Drayden's dragons are definitely scary, but with the right planning, I think we've got a fair shot. He leads with Fracture as we start off the battle with Tula. This Fracture loves going for Dragon Dance, so I've got to immediately set up a Thunder Wave. Not only does that cut his speed in half, but there's now a chance for him to be immobilized, giving us free turns in the future. So after Fracture goes for his court-mandated Dragon Dance, we can pivot out with the Volt Switch into Bow as Drayden's AI continues trying to set up Dragon Dance. He's probably going to continue doing that since the AI wants to be faster, so we've got a free turn to set up with Workup. Fracture does indeed go for another one, so on the next turn, with our +1 attack, we're free to take him out with a Hammer Arm. Drudigan comes out next, but with our +1 attack, we can get the one-shot again to take him out. The Rough Skin hurts us a little, but as Drayden sends out his Ace Haxorus, we've got one last job before we can switch out. I have Bow use Will-O-Wisp, having Haxorus' attack as he goes for a Dragon Tail. That drags out Musha, but since Bow was able to land his Will-O-Wisp, we're fine to stay in and tank his Weak Assurance as we fire back with Psybeam. Another Psybeam later, and that's Haxorus taken care of, meaning we've just won our 8th and final gym badge. And so, with our badge quest completed, it's time to march our way through the badge checkers and arrive at the Elite Four. These badge checkers are probably the coolest in the entire franchise. I mean, the one for the ice gym even has an ice puzzle, and the one for the flying gym has this gap with an air current that takes you across. There's so much love and care put into these games, and in between moments like these are sometimes missed in Nuzlocke videos since they only hit the main story beats, but I wanted to highlight this beautiful section. With our team fully maxed out, it's time to head into the Elite Four for our final gauntlet. The first one I decide to challenge is Caitlyn, since we have 2 great counters to her Psychic team. She leads with Reuniclus as we start the battle with Musha. We're carrying Shadow Ball to hit her super effectively, but I decide to use the first turn and try to boost with Charge Beam. We unfortunately miss our attack as Reuniclus connects with a Hard Thunder, dealing a decent amount of damage. On the next turn, we finally connect with the Charge Beam, but we don't get the boost. And Reuniclus somehow connects with a second Thunder, bringing us to 60 HP, so we've got to switch out. I go into Tula for the resist as Reuniclus finally misses her next attack, so now we've got a chance to start setting up. Our Charge Beam thankfully gets the special attack boost as Reuniclus nails us with a hard Psychic, but another Charge Beam connects to take her out, putting us at +2 and guaranteeing that we can one-shot the rest of her team. This KO also gives us a level up, and oh, look at that! I gave Brav the XP share so he could hopefully level up to 54 before the final fight, but since the Elite Four only brings 4 Pokemon each, we might be cutting it a little close. Well, for the rest of Caitlyn's team, we can easily sweep through the rest of her Pokemon, taking out Sigilyph with a Thunderbolt, Musharna with a Signal Beam, and Gothitelle with another Signal Beam, meaning we've just defeated the first member with 3 to go. And since you can do these in any order, I decided to challenge Grimsley next. He leads with Scrafty, so I start the battle with Bow. This Scrafty is running Moxie, so I make sure to land a Will-O-Wisp to permanently cut his attack. In return, Scrafty fires back with a sand attack, lowering our accuracy, so before I start setting up, I want to shake off that drop. I switch into Tula as Scrafty lands a weak Brick Break, but seeing as this is the perfect opportunity, I decide to set up with Charge Beam. The first one gets the boost, but this Scrafty lands another sand attack and drops our accuracy. Now we do have the Compound Eyes ability to boost our accuracy, but I don't want to play around that. Scrafty's for sure going for a crunch, so I switch back into Bow to resist it. But Scrafty gets a defense drop, so on the turn Grimsley heals, I switch back into Tula. Our next Charge Beam gets a crit and a special attack boost as Scrafty goes for another crunch, which drops our defense again. But now we're in the perfect position as another Charge Beam can take him out while getting us another boost. And with our +2 to our special attack, we're very safe to stay in and fire off super effective Signal Beams. Grimsley's Crocodile gets easily one-shot, but as he sends out Bisharp, it could be a little scary. Signal Beam is a neutral hit, but since Bisharp's not running Sucker Punch, a Thunderbolt is a safe option and actually does more than Signal Beam. We connect with the attack and cleanly take him out. That leaves Grimsley's remaining Liepard, who actually lands a Fake Out, and with her defense drop from earlier, it does a decent amount. But since we outspeed, a single Signal Beam is enough to take her out, winning us the battle and making that 2 down with 2 to go. Next, I decide to challenge Marshall since we've got some decent answers for his team. He leads with Throw as we're starting the battle with Musha. Throw immediately outspeeds and nails us with a Stone Edge, even scoring a critical hit as Musha expertly misses another Charge Beam. But this is not a concern since we're pretty safe to stay in and tank another Stone Edge before healing it all back with Moonlight. And since Throw outspeeds us, his payback doesn't do enough damage as we can keep fishing for Charge Beam boosts. So lots of back and forth later and we're at +3 as we take him out. Marshall sends out Mienshao next, but the best he can do is Jump Kick as we continue healing back with Moonlight. Then, at +3 special attack, a Psybeam easily takes him out. Against his incoming Sock, he actually survives on his Sturdy, but we land the 10% Confusion. So on the turn that Marshall heals, we can heal back with Moonlight before taking him out with the Charge Beam to break the Sturdy and Psybeam for the KO. Marshall sends out his Ace Conkeldurr, but with our bulk and our boosts, we're able to tank his Stone Edge before firing back with the final Psybeam, taking him out and winning us the battle, making that a total Musha sweep with only one battle left in our way. And so with our team having a little more XP from the first 3 battles, it's time to challenge Chantal. She leads with Cofagrigus as we start the battle with Tula. This time, there's no time for setting up though, as we start the battle with a powerful Thunderbolt. Cofagrigus loves going for Will-O-Wisp, so we're totally fine to stay in and take out the Coffin. Chantal sends out Chandelure next, and since a Fire Blast is definitely coming my way, we've got to pivot out with Volt Switch. It does a significant amount of damage while also letting us switch out into Costa. Chandelure actually misses their Fire Blast, and since she's not running Energy Ball, we're fine to stay in and tank her Shadow Ball before setting up with Shell Smash. And with our +2 speed, we can now outspeed her entire team. Chandelure is taken out with the Rock Slide, which I think Waterfall would have been better to secure the KO, but I was thinking about Flame Body and thought a 10% miss was better than a 30% burn. Jellicent comes out next, and unfortunately, I had deleted Crunch for Waterfall at the last second, so we've got to switch into Brav on the Shadow Ball. But Jellicent instead goes for a Surf, dealing huge damage and forcing us to switch again. I send out Tula, who can tank the Surf along with the Burn before switching out with Volt Switch. We bring out Musha, who easily tanks the Jellicent's Brine, and on the next turn, we can stay in and tank the incoming Shadow Ball too. That gives us the opportunity to take her out with the Charge Beam, but I totally underestimated both our speed and Jellicent's special attack because as Golurk comes out, we can't risk staying in and getting outsped again. I switch into Brav on the Shadow Punch, and since Golurk's only move to hit us is Brick Break, we can safely pivot to Bow to tank it. Then, since we outspeed, we can land a critical Will-O-Wisp, cutting their attack in half and actually letting us survive the Earthquake. We can't survive another though, but we can switch into Brav since we're immune to the attack. Then, on the next turn, we can outspeed and take to the skies as Golurk reveals he's going for Brick Break. Our fly connects, bringing them to the red, but that means Golurk's gonna fire back with a Brick Break. But with the burn having their attack, we're able to tank the hit as the burn takes away their final notch of HP, meaning we've just won the battle and defeated all 4 Elite Four members. But that means Brav's just barely missing out on evolving, literally 1 level away from Braviary. So not only has he been hogging all the XP from the team, leaving everyone at 51 and 52, but now we're at a huge disadvantage going into the final battle against Ghetsis. There's one saving grace though as we descend beneath the Pokemon League. N and Alder are here as N calls for his castle to rise out of the ground for the final confrontation. The 7 sages come out, but the Unova gym leaders that we've been taking out this whole time step up to help us out. That means we can head forward and explore the rest of the mansion, and there is a rare candy here in N's room, and I was contemplating hard about using it on Brav for the evolution. I mean, technically we have unlimited rare candies, but we did honor the level cap going into the Elite Four, so would this be okay to use? If this was a regular playthrough, then heck yeah, I'd use it, but for a Nuzlocke, I don't know, it didn't feel right to me. So with our nerf team, I head into the final room as N pulls out all the stops, summoning Zekrom for the final battle. But the Lightstone from our bag starts shaking and rising up, releasing a wave of energy as Reshiram emerges in a ball of fire. So with the 2 dragons in front of us, we start the battle as I start by sending out Brav. Now, I know this isn't the most humane thing, especially that Reshiram is here to help us, but my idea was to kill this Reshiram over and over again until we level up. But unfortunately, as Brav connects with the killing blow, we don't collect any XP from this fight. So since there's no more opportunities to level up, I just chuck the Master Ball for this scripted catch. And since Black does catch Reshiram in the manga, and we otherwise would only have 5 team members, well 4.5 team members really, I decided to use him in our last 2 battles to help us out. So with N fully healing our team, it's time to take on the first one. He starts the battle with Zekrom as we send out Reshi, who has been forced to the front of the party. But since this part is supposed to be kinda scripted, Zekrom starts the battle with the resisted Fusion Bolt as we fire back with Dragon Breath. It looks like it's just shy of a 2-hit KO, but it's definitely not a 2-hit KO now as Zekrom sets up the light screen. We deal about a quarter with another Dragon Breath, but then on the next turn, Zekrom actually outspeeds and fires off a Giga Impact. We survive in the yellow as we bring him down to the red with another Dragon Breath, but since they have to recharge, we can secure the knockout with 1 more attack. We collect our XP, and you'll see that Brav is still holding the XP share just in case we can get our final level up before the Ghetsis fight. He sends out Caracosta next, who threatens a hard Stone Edge, so I switch out into Musha to absorb the hit. Now, the turtle does threaten Crunch, but since he doesn't get Stab on it, I was fairly confident we could tank it. We do, so that gives us the chance to start healing back with Moonlight. The AI is a little weird, opting to go for Stone Edge this time, but since I'm spamming Moonlight, we can just heal it all back on the same turn. Then, being fairly confident in our HP, we can tank the next Crunch as we risk the Charge Beam. This deals about half to Caracosta, but it also gets us the +1 to our special attack. But since Stone Edge and Crunch have overlapping damage rolls, it's hard to determine which one N's gonna go for. So to avoid a Stone Edge crit, I decided to switch into Costa as a middle ground play. We tank the Crunch along with his follow-up Stone Edge, and now it's time for us to set up. A Shell Smash puts us at +2 attack and +2 speed, meaning we can now outspeed the turtle to win the mirror matchup with the Waterfall. N sends out Klinklang next, but I know Klinklang's physical defense is deceptively tanky, so we've gotta go for the safe play. I switch out into Tula, who can resist the incoming Thunderbolt, but Klinklang instead goes for a Focus Blast. Well, that's definitely a Zoroark, and since he's carrying Flamethrower, we're not playing any games as we go for the one-shot with Signal Beam. Archops is next, but since he's really frail and we're really fast, we can outspeed to take him out with the Magna Boosted Thunderbolt. And now that the other 2 threats are taken out, N finally sends out Klinklang, but his moveset can't really touch us. I decided to stay in and use Charge Beam, taking out nearly half their HP and getting us the boost in the process. Klinklang moronically goes for a metal sound, lowering our special defense, so a Hyper Beam would take us out, but literally any attack from Tula would finish them off. That only leaves N's final Pokemon, which is his Vanillix. But seeing as we've got a boosted special attack, we're fine to stay in and one-shot his Ice Cream with a Thunderbolt, winning us our first battle. And after all that XP, does Brav evolve? No, he does not. Well, we're screwed. Without any preamble, it's time for the battle against the true Team Plasma leader, Getsus. He leads with Cofagrigus, as we're still leading with Reshi from the previous battle. Hang on, Getsus, give me 1 second, let me check one thing. Okay, yeah, 1,182 XP points from leveling up. Brav, are you kidding me? We were this close to perfection. Well, regardless, we start the battle with the Dragon Breath, which even gets a lucky para as Cofagrigus lands a Toxic on us. This guy's running Toxic Protect, so on our free turn, I switch into Brav as a new plan begins to form. By outspeeding and going for Rock Slide, we deal a significant amount of damage as Cofagrigus misses a Toxic. By the way, you guys are free to call me out for trying to paraflinch with Rock Slide right after seeing Brav's summary and seeing the sheer force ability. You know, the one that boosts your move's power, but removes the secondary effect? The secondary effect like flinches? Yeah, not my proudest moment. One more Rock Slide brings him to the red, as we actually do land the para, but seeing as Getsus is definitely healing in this range, I decide to stay in and set up with Hone Claws, boosting our attack for our future Rock Slides. We barely miss out on the 2-hit KO, as Cofagrigus manages to land his Toxic this time. So that definitely means Protect is coming, so we can set up a second Hone Claws on the next turn. And now that we're at +2 attack, our next Rock Slide cleanly takes out the Coffin. We even level up to level 54, but it's a little too late. Brav, you didn't evolve and you drained all the XP from the rest of the team, so this is gonna be your last swan song, one final performance to send you off. As Bisharp comes out, I have Brav stay in and fire off a +2 Crush Claw, bringing Bisharp down to half as he retaliates with a Stone Edge, connecting and taking out our little bird. But this sacrifice was needed to bring in Bow for free, since a quad-effective Brick Break could easily wipe out the chess piece. Getsus sends out Bouffalant next, who threatens either Head Charge or Earthquake, but since this is the last battle, I decided to go all out. We stay in and risk a Will-O-Wisp, which thankfully connects, having the Bison's attack as he chooses to go for a Head Charge. It still does a significant amount of damage, but it's nowhere near where it would be without the burn. And so on the next turn, we can take out a chunk of his HP with Brick Break before Bouffalant takes himself out from the recoil. That baits out Seismitoad next, so I switch out into Costa on the Muddy Water, but Seismitoad instead goes for an Earthquake, and I've kind of backed myself into a corner here. With a bad matchup into his remaining Pokemon, I decided to let Costa go down, taking one for the team to allow for a safe switch in. I send out Musha, who can tank an Earthquake before firing back with a Psybeam. This again is just shy of a 2-hit KO. I don't know what's up with my luck on these damage rolls, but since we're living another Earthquake, we can stay in and heal back with Moonlight. This Gen 5 AI is actually pretty good, since Seismitoad actually sets up the Rain with Rain Dance, which would cut our Moonlight heals in half, but luckily we weren't going for the heals, instead firing off a Psybeam, which just misses out on the kill. Getsus is for sure gonna heal here, so I decided to switch to Shadow Ball for that chance to drop his special defense. But for some reason, Seismitoad goes for a rain boosted Muddy Water instead. He gets a critical hit, nearly taking us out, and even gets the accuracy drop. But Musha breaks through the drop and connects with the Shadow Ball, taking out the frog before his Swift Swim shenanigans could get out of hand. Getsus sends out Electros next, and without a very good switch, I've gotta hope that Musha can outspeed. We obviously don't, so that's another team member sacrifice for a clean switch. Unfortunately, I'm not able to capitalize on it, sending out Bow since that'd be our worst matchup for his Hydreigon in the back. We get off a weak Heat Crash before the Eel takes us out with an Acrobatics. At least we've chipped him down a bit, but I can only see one out. I send out Tula, and we need to land our Charge Beams. We connect with the first one, which even gets a special attack boost as Electros goes for a Flamethrower. It is weakened by the rain, but it still does a good amount of damage. Not wanting to risk the crit here, we go for the Signal Beam to secure the KO, meaning there's only one Pokemon left between us and victory. Getsus sends out Hydreigon, and with our +1 special attack, Tula channels the energy of our 4 fallen team members and connects with a Signal Beam. Hydreigon's HP lowers and drops to 0, meaning we've done it. The battle is won, but it's come at a great cost. Bo was the powerhouse from the very beginning, back when he was just a little Tepig. And Brav, even though you fell short of your potential, the early game wouldn't have been possible without you two. Musha and Costa, you guys were more than just Pokemon, you were our friends and partners. But despite the losses, we emerged victorious. This win is as much theirs as it is ours. We'll never forget their sacrifices. And as one final goodbye, a fainted Brav pops up at the end of the battle to evolve into Braviary. And even though we couldn't use Black's main partner in crime for the majority of the run, it was still a fun playthrough and such a blast to explore Unova again. Black and White are the best written romance the Pokemon Company has ever done, but while Black's team is full of insanely strong Pokemon, White's team, well, it's not exactly top-notch. So I was thinking, if we're stuck with her mediocre team, is it even possible to beat a Hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon White? Well, there's only one way to find out, as we spawn into the world as White. Our friends Charon and Bianca are here to pick up our starter Pokemon, and this is one of those rare moments where not only do we grab Tepig to join our party, but we sneakily take Snivy too, giving us 2 starter Pokemon. In the manga, White didn't have a true starter Pokemon like a normal trainer, but her first starter Pokemon would be Gigi the Tepig. Gigi was a Pokemon actress, and she would often pair up with Black's Tepig to do media shootings. You can tell which is which by Gigi's cute little bow on the top of her head. White's other starter Pokemon would be Amanda the Superior, who was part of the original starter trio, but N stole her and took her on his adventures. Later on, he'd battle against White inside the Ferris wheel, and this is the moment where Gigi and N connected with each other. White was trying to escape, but after calling out to Gigi, she chose to join N's team and completely abandoned White.
Bruh.
Look at N's face here, me when we have to go around in a circle and say our name and a fun fact about ourselves. Well, Servine started following White after this, ultimately joining her team and evolving into Superior later on. So with our 2 team members, honestly, I think Gym 1 is definitely doable, but I still wanted to get one last encounter. Just like how I swapped out the Elemental Monkey for Rufflet in Black's Manga Nuzlocke, I'm gonna do the same here for White's counterpart, which is a Vullaby named Barbara. Genuinely, these are some of the worst nicknames in manga history. Amanda and Barbara.
Barbara Bush.
Yes.
It gets worse too, I'll show you as we go further. Well, in the manga, Barbara was caught by White to play the more villainous roles in her movies. She never managed to evolve into her final form, finishing the arc at level 42, but since we're bringing out the full potential of her team, I'm gonna try my best to keep her alive to get that Evo. Gigi won't be evolving though, since that goes against her whole character arc, so if I'm gonna do this for anyone else, then I'll clarify that beforehand. So with team member number 3 on board, we're good to head in to take on our first gym challenge. And since we grabbed Tepig first, that means we're facing off against Cress, who is the water specialist of the 3. I wanted to save our health for his Panpour in the back, so we're leading with Gigi to take care of his lead Lillipup. A couple embers later, and the pup goes down, while we barely took any damage ourselves. That only leaves Panpour, but that's Amanda's job, as a couple Vine Whips can deal with his ace, winning us a pretty straightforward badge number 1. Shout out Barbara for doing nothing this whole battle.
Barbara Bush.
Yes.
Now that we've got access to the Cut HM, we can make our way into the Dream Yard to take out Team Plasma. By the way, apparently this is the only place where you're required to use an HM. I remember hearing about that, but I'll have to keep an eye out if there's any mandatory surf or strength spots. Our next stop is to help Charon with Team Plasma again, and this time, it's a double battle all the way in Wellspring Cave. We've got the power of our double starter core to take them out, so with Team Plasma handled for now, we can make our way into Nacrene City for our next gym challenge. And this one, I'm actually scared for. Lenora starts the battle with Herdier, immediately cutting our attack with Intimidate, and okay, pause for a sec, pause. Okay, Herdier's not even the real problem. Yeah, he drops our attack and all, but once he goes down, Lenora's got a Demon Watchhog in the back. with the boosted Retaliate, which goes from 70 base power to 140 base power since Herdier always dies, and then the stab boost from being a normal type brings it to 210 base power. I need to think of a way to play around it, so my strategy is to set up with Nasty Plot. Our special attack is awful, but I was hoping for the +4 boost to help us out. Unfortunately, Herdier does way too much damage with Takedown, which means once Watchog comes out, we won't be able to survive long enough to two-shot her. I think we all know who's gotta make the sacrifice. Since Gigi can't evolve past a Tepig, we might as well make the sack. But Gigi lives! I didn't know it at the time, but Gigi's HP and defense stats are nearly perfect, which let her tank the hit. And now that Retaliate's no longer boosted, we can pretty safely switch into Amanda to set up the Leech Seeds. Even though we're put to sleep with Hypnosis, the seeds are keeping us healthy as we wake up at the last minute to connect with a Leaf Tornado, even getting a boost thanks to our Overgrow ability, securing us the clean knockout and winning us a very sweaty badge number 2. As we make our way through Pinwheel Forest, I just wanted to say a huge heartfelt thank you for all the support on the videos lately. Anyone who's watched or liked, commented, subscribed, all that stuff, thank you all so much. I'm not really good with the sentimental stuff, but I see you and I really appreciate you for being here. Well, arriving in Castelia City, we headed straight to the next gym to make our way through the Honey Puzzle. This is an example of how the Nuzlocke snowball effect could have taken place, since if we had lost Gigi in the second gym battle, then I'd be a lot more scared to face 3 bug types with a single Vullaby, especially that Dwebble, but luckily, since our team's still intact, I feel a lot more confident. Gigi starts the battle to set up Flame Charge on his Whirlipede, dealing over half as Whirlipede fires back with the Poison Tail, getting not only a critical hit, but also a poison. At least we can take him out on the next turn, but that means our time's cut short as Dwebble comes out. I'm forced to switch into Amanda to set up a Leech Seed, and Dwebble does hit us back with a super effective Strugel Boojel, but off of that horrible special attack, we can survive it and start healing up with the seeds. Dwebble can't break through our heals, so he eventually goes down as Berg's only left with his ace Leavanny. And a Strugel Boojel will definitely hurt here, but Barbara, with her quad-effective pluck, can pluck Leavanny's final leaves from his abdomen, winning us a pretty straightforward badge number 3. That's basically all we've got to do in this half of Unova, so we can head through the deserty Route 4 and arrive in Nimbasa City. Here, we can finally catch another team member, which is gonna be Solly the Solosis. In the manga, when White was training in the battle subway, she revealed she had caught a bunch of Pokemon to round out her team. Some of these guys are spoilers for later, but we can't even catch them yet to help us out for the next challenge. Now, real talk here, the next gym leader is actually impossible in my opinion. Obviously, Barbara's gonna be a bench warmer here because of her flying type, and you might think Amanda's got a decent counter thanks to us resisting electric, but both her Emolgas have Aerial Ace to hit us, and her Zebstrika's got Flame Charge as well. The Emolgas also have Pursuit for Solly, and for Gigi, well, it's Gigi. We've lost our opportunity to be MVP at this point. Well, Elisa starts the battle with Emolga, and the best I've got is Solly as our lead. We immediately get outsped as Elisa pivots out into her second Emolga, but with the held Eviolite and also setting up a light screen, we can make it easier to survive her Volt switches as we fire back with Rock Tomb. That was my speed control, but yeah, Emolga's way too fast. But it also lets us chip its health without putting them into heal range, so we can use a Psyshock to finish off the rest of her HP, getting the cheeky KO and removing the first threat of her team. It's the same deal for her second Emolga, but we got a lucky crit and didn't need to finish the job with Gigi, which now only leaves Zebstrika, and I've only got one idea for this horse. Yeah, we are weak to Flame Charge, but Leech Seed's consistent damage is something that I just can't pass up. And with Mega Drain for some extra healing, our double regens keep us really healthy as we slowly drain her ace. The seeds finish off her last bit of health, meaning we've just clutched up and won ourselves a very tricky badge number 4. With Elisa recruited, she helps us lower the drawbridge, allowing us to make our way over to Driftvale for the next gym challenge. I do want to catch one more team member first, who's gonna be a Deerling named Darlene. In the manga, Darlene was White's first real capture, which she really struggled to catch. Even Deerling looked confused here, but Black stepped in to lend a hand since he already had catching experience. He sent out Galvantula to target a wild Tortuga, and the two of them threw their Pokeballs at the same time to catch both targets. Look at these two, man, so wholesome. So with all our encounters obtained for this section, we can clear out Team Plasma from cold storage with the help of Gigi actually, since, look, if anyone's gonna die from a straight crit, I'd rather it be Gigi. And for the upcoming gym, I'm honestly a little scared of his Excadrill, but I'm optimistic since we've got good answers for the rest of his team. With everything ready, we can head underground to challenge him. Clay leads with his Krokorok, and we've got a really good answer in Barbara. We're immune to his Bulldoze, and we also resist Crunch, so if he wants to use Swagger to boost our attack, then I'm all for it. Except, I forgot to equip a Persimberry. But luckily, we go unpunished as we break through the confusion and take him out with another Pluck. This immediately baits out Excadrill, and since he's got Rock Slide and definitely outspeeding, even if we weren't confused, I can't really stay in. At least we can switch into Amanda as Excadrill sets up the Hone Claws, but a Rock Slide does way too much damage after the boost. This is really a demon set, dude. Hone Claws boosting his accuracy means Rock Slide's got perfect accuracy. But at least, since we've set up with Leech Seed, we can stay pretty healthy and even switch into our Eviolite Solly to use Charm, lowering his attack by 2 stages. Finally, with everything set up, we can bring out Darlene for the killing blow, firing off a super effective jump kick for the knockout. And with only Palpitoad left, Amanda comes back out to fire off an Overgrowth boosted, Miracle Seed boosted Mega Drain, getting the clean quad effective one-shot and finishing off his final Pokemon, which wins us a well-fought badge number 5. With Clay recruited now, he helps us clear out the Electro Web blocking Chargestone Cave, so we can start making our way through to the next town. Team Plasma is here doing Team Plasma stuff, but we can pretty easily make our way through and take out N as well. There's a reason why I haven't been mentioning these rival battles, and yeah, it's because they all forgot about the level cap and they're like 4 or 5 levels under. Solly also evolves into Duosion, and while White didn't evolve her into Reuniclus, they ended their adventures at level 32, so when we hit level 41, I'm gonna allow the evolution as a natural way to continue her journey. Arriving in Mistralton, we have to retrieve Skyla from the Celestial Tower, but the battles on the way up are not that bad. Darlene even evolves into Sawsbuck, which I'm gonna allow since White and Darlene finished their adventures at level 33, and Deerling evolves at 34. So with the bell rung, Skyla's happy with this little charade as she heads back to the gym for us to challenge her. I've cooked up a decent strategy, and you'll see it right away as we're leading with Gigi for some reason. Yep, we're dealing with physical Swoobat here as she outspeeds and hits us with the Heart Stamp, even getting a critical hit, but we can counter back with a Will-O-Wisp. That cuts her attack in half, letting us tank these hits much better before we switch into Barbara for the Psychic immunity. A single Feint attack can finish her off as Skyla sends out Unfazant next, but this Unfazant's got a really bad moveset, so we're free to stay in as she wastes 2 turns for a Razor Wind. Rock Tomb's a nice speed control option, letting us outspeed on the next turn to 2-shot him with Feint attack again. Swana's out last, but a little secret about Swana, this Pokemon sucks. Solly can come out and fire off a Psyshock, getting the one-shot and winning us a very easy badge number 6. Beating Skyla means we now have Surf unlocked, so we can backtrack a bit to catch another encounter who will be an Alomomola named Nancy. Yeah, we're back to the bad nicknames again. Sorry if your name is Nancy, it's a very old person name. In the manga, Alomomola was another one of those battle subway Pokemon, and good thing White caught her, cause we really needed some kind of bulk on the team. The next thing we've got to do is clear through Twist Mountain and head towards the next town, which is going to be Icarus City, and also the home of our final encounter, a Stunfisk named Dorothy. She was another battle subway Pokemon, also with the horrible nickname, and yeah, I have no idea what the writers were doing with her team at this point. You've got some of the all-time ugliest Pokemon on her team. Like, my girl did not deserve this final team. I'm convinced the rest of her team was supposed to be Garbodor and Vanillix, but it got changed somewhere in development. Well, speaking of Vanillix, we've still got to take on the gym leader while we're here. He specializes in ice types, and unfortunately, a good chunk of our team is weak to him. Still though, as he starts with his Vanillish, we can lead with Nancy to set up an Aqua Ring. The Ice Cream can hardly touch us, so a few surfs later, and not only does Bryson waste all his Hyper Potions, but we can also take him out while staying healthy thanks to the Aqua Ring. Beartic is out next, but we again wall his bear as we continue firing off surfs. Beartic does confuse us with Swagger, but thanks to our Wish Protect strats, we can stay pretty healthy as we wall the rest of his moves to take him out. And that just leaves Cryogonal, but Nancy's done enough at this point. We can tag out into Solly, tanking the Aurora Beam thanks to our Eviolite, as we fire back with the Flash Cannon, which we had picked up in Twist Mountain, and thanks to our high special attack, we can pretty easily finish off his final team member to win us an admittedly pretty stally badge number 7, but still a victory nonetheless. So with the 7th badge under our belt, we've got to take care of all the Team Plasma stuff. The first thing we do is head up Dragon Spiral Tower to clear out all the grunts thanks to our newly caught Stunfisk. N is here too, as he summons Reshiram, so now we've got to chase him to Relic Castle for the second half of the fetch quest. Alder and Getsis are here, but with N nowhere to be found, the best we can do is grab the Darkstone from Nakreen City before we're finally allowed to continue on our journey. After making our way into Opelucid City, we meet up with Drayden and Iris to catch them up on all the events with Team Plasma. And with all this talk of ancient dragons, there's no better place to practice against them than the 8th and final gym. Our team isn't exactly equipped to deal with dragon types since we don't have good dragon or ice coverage, so we've really got to train up. Solly can evolve into Reuniclus, but that's about it for our prep, since Superior's Dragon Pulse doesn't come until the remakes as a tutor move, and Ice Beam for Alomomola is a post-game TM. So starting off the battle, Iris leads with Fracture as we're starting with Solly. I figured, hey, with the bulky Mon in front of her, the AI might waste a turn with Dragon Dance, but no, she uses Assurance for a decent chunk. Regardless, our Psychic still fires back into her lead for a simple one-shot, taking her out as Iris sends out Druddigan next. We can tank a Night Slash thanks to that great bulk and fire back with another Psychic, bringing them to under half as we switch out into Dorothy on the next attack. My strat is to use Bulldoze to lower her speed, causing Iris to use a Hyper Potion before we take her out with the Night Slash from Barbara. That only leaves Haxorus now, so we can get a bit of chip in with Fly as Haxorus very scarily sets up with Dragon Dance. At the very least, we know she's going for a negative priority Dragon Tail, so Darlene gets dragged out to finish her off with one last takedown, surviving on just 14 HP and winning us our 8th and final gym badge. With only the Pokemon League left in our way, we can clear through the badge checkers and make our way through Victory Road. I really want to get Mandibuzz, but our level cap is 50, and Volibee doesn't evolve until level 54. I know it's only 4 levels, so I'm gonna try my best to get there with our upcoming battles through the Elite Four. So with everything prepared, we can step into the chamber for the final challenge of the run. Since you can do these in any order, I figured the easiest is probably to take out Marshall first. Our Solly is a great answer to his fighting types, as we go for Expert Belt boosted Psychic after Psychic, taking out Throw in a single hit, along with his Mienshao and his Sock. Well, he lives on 1 HP thanks to his Sturdy ability, so as Marshall heals with a full restore, we can switch into Amanda to start setting up with Coil. We're running a physical Superior this time, and with our super effective Aerial Ace, we can bring down his Sock pretty easily, as well as his Conkeldurr, since Coil also boosts our defenses and lets us tank his attacks, making that 1 down with 3 more to go. Next up, I felt like Grimsley wouldn't be too tough to deal with, so as he starts with Scrafty, it's Darlene's time to shine as we can take him out with our super effective Jump Kick. He does survive the first one, but we can tank a Brick Break and take him out on the next turn with the Horn Leech to get a little recovery back too. That's the only threat for us, since his Ace Bisharp goes down to a single Jump Kick. Liepard actually chips us with Fake Out, but another Jump Kick demolishes him too, and finally, Crocodile comes out to drop our attack with Intimidate, but our Horn Leech keeps us healthy as we take out his final team member, making that 2 down with only 2 members to take on. It was a little tough to choose which one to fight next, but I ultimately went with Chantal since I wanted to get a little more XP. She leaves with Cofagrigus, and the only answer I've got is Barbara. We outspeed and go for a feint attack, dealing a decent amount of damage before the Coffin cuts our attack with Will-O-Wisp. we can squeeze in a Toxic on our way out, but with the resisted Shadow Ball and burn damage, it's not a winning battle. We switch into Darlene, and Chantal heals back all that health with the full restore, so Barbara literally didn't do anything. Great job, Barbara.
Babrabush.
At the very least, we can two-shot her with Horn Leech for the first KO, which then baits out her Chandelure. This is for sure gonna be a Fire Blast, so Nancy can come out to tank it as we set up the Toxic and hit her with the hard Scald. Then, we can even protect to let the Toxic damage rack up, and this is absolutely heal range, so we can safely go for our Wish Protect strats to heal up ourselves. A little more stalling later, and we can wear down her ace while we just narrowly survive on 17 HP. Jellicent comes out next, but that's the perfect switch for Amanda to tank the Surf as we take her out with Leaf Blade. It's actually a one-shot, but her cursed body prevents us from using it again. Luckily, she's only got a Golurk, so Darlene finishes off her final Mon, winning us a very tough battle and making that 3 down with only 1 more to go. That only leaves us with Caitlyn left, and since we don't have Mandibuzz yet, I'm pretty scared for this one. At the very least, we can lead with Solly against a Reuniclus for the mirror matchup, and since we're running Shadow Ball and she's not, we can make her waste all her heals as we take out her lead with a couple attacks. Musharna comes out after for the Shadow Ball coverage, so I bring out Darlene for the immunity as we fire back with max power returns. 2 hits is all we need to take her out as Caitlyn sends out Sigilif next. This is always Ice Beam, but Nancy is our resident bulky water type as we tank it and start firing back with Scalds. We slowly outstall Sigilif as one last Scald takes her out, leaving only 1 Pokemon left in our way. Caitlyn sends out Gothitelle, and thankfully, since she doesn't have Shadow Tag, we can bring out Darlene on the baited Shadow Ball for the immunity before firing back with Horn Leech. The heals guarantee us to survive her Psychic, meaning with one last return, we can finish off her ace and win us all 4 Elite Four battles. But even with all 4 battles, that still isn't enough XP for us to get a Mandibuzz. But we do have one more chance. Team Plasma summons their castle from the ground to surround the Pokemon League, as the 7 sages even step out to stop us. Luckily, I've already had my 7 ice-cold beers, so dealing with these guys is not really an issue. At the heart of the castle, we can find N just chilling there, as he summons Reshiram to crash through the wall to take us on. But luckily, the Darkstone rises up from our bag and starts glowing too, as Zekrom bursts from the stone to aid us in battle. We just chuck the Master Ball at him, but I'm not adding him to the team. Instead, as N challenges us to a fight, he's starting with his Reshiram as we're starting with Nancy. So the thing about this battle is Reshiram is coded to always use Fusion Flare on turn 1. I think it's to show off the synergy with Fusion Bolt, but we can take advantage of that info to lead with our bulky water type. We start Toxic Stalling as Reshiram can hardly touch us in return, and our Wish even keeps us healthy at the same time. So a few turns later, and Reshiram succumbs to the Toxic, causing N to send out his Klinklang. That's an easy switch into Dorothy on the Thunderbolt immunity, and we're pretty safe to fire off 2 of our own to finish off a second Pokemon. Vanillix comes out next, threatening to use an Ice move, but we can go right back into Nancy to start stalling again. The Wish Protect strat keeps us healthy as we slowly start stalling him with Toxic as well, eventually finishing him off after a little back and forth. Zoroark comes out and tries to pick us off with Focus Blast, but we hold strong and continue healing up with Wish Protect before finishing him off with a couple Scalds too. Then, against his Caracosta, Amanda can grab an easy KO with Leaf Blade, leaving only his Archops. But Amanda actually outspeeds with Leaf Blade, meaning we can always knock him into Defeatist range to allow us to survive the acrobatics. Then one more Leaf Blade and that's Archops down, meaning we've just defeated N with only one last battle in our way. And just in time too, because Barbara finally reaches level 54, evolving into her final form Mandibuzz to help us out in the last battle against Ghetsis. We can't change the order of our team, so we're leading with Nancy from the last battle as he starts with Cofagrigus. We already know how to deal with this, we're going for our Toxic Stall strategy, but Ghetsis has the same plans. But unlike the AI, we can actually make good decisions as we switch into Darlene on a Shadow Ball before our toxic damage racks up too much. Ghetsis does heal, but with Horn Leech doing pretty decent damage, we can just take him out a few turns later while staying at full health. Ghetsis sends out Hydreigon next, and there's not a lot of good options we can switch into. I think the AI sees a few viable moves, either Fire Blast or Focus Blast, and both of those have a good chance to miss. So we've got to stay in and go for the jump kick, but Hydreigon connects with the Fire Blast. Darlene goes down, giving us the first death of the run. I figured we can bring out Nancy on the free switch, tanking a Dragon Pulse as we set up the Toxic. With the poison ticking away, we're forced to sack another team member as Nancy takes the second attack and finally goes down. It was at this point when I realized, Hydreigon doesn't have any dark type attacks. We bring out Solly, who not only tanks a Dragon Pulse thanks to our bulk, but also connects with a Focus Blast. That's a very clean one-hit KO thanks to our Expert Belt, meaning we are back in the game. Getsis sends out Bisharp, and since this is definitely a Night Slash, we can pivot through Barbara for the resist, then switching into Dorothy on a failed Metal Burst. A quick para and 2 Thunderbolts later, and Bisharp goes down. He did put up a good fight though, so as our 3 HP buddy is staring down Getsis' incoming Bouffalant, we've got to take our third sacrifice for the clean switch. That's half our team, but we can bring out Barbara for free and start chipping away with Fly. And with the Bull doing damage to himself with each head charge, we can survive long enough to take him out, but just barely. Getsis is down to only 2 Pokemon now as he brings out Electros. There's no way of surviving this one, so this is gonna be sack number 4, but at the very least, we can set up a Tailwind as a final act before going down. Our only option is Solly, who, thanks to the Tailwind, we can outspeed and 2-shot with Psychic, taking out his Eel and leaving only one last Pokemon. Seismitoad is out last, but since he has Sludge Wave, there's not a guaranteed safe switch. We've got to make sacrifice number 5, letting Solly go down as our Tailwind peters out. Peters out? Peter Griffin? But we didn't even need the Tailwind, as Amanda, our starter who joined our team from the very beginning, outspeeds and fires off a Leaf Blade, scoring the quad effective hit and winning us not only the final battle, but the entire run. Over the past year, I've been challenging myself to take the manga characters' teams to see if they could beat a Hardcore Nuzlocke in their home region. Because when your main goal is to tell a fun story, sometimes the team takes a big hit. Wait. So in this video, I'm taking X's team to see if he could beat a Hardcore Nuzlocke of the Kalos region. His team might look pretty basic, but they've got the region's gimmick on their side, and in the manga, X was able to Mega Evolve all 5 of his Pokemon at once, which, if we bond with our team, we might be able to do the same. But at the same time, X only caught these 6 Pokemon, so just one misplay and we'd be down a team member. And if one of these guys ends up feigning, well...
I'm in danger!
So to start off our journey, I name myself X, which is actually this guy's canonical name in the manga. We look at ourselves in the mirror for a bit before heading downstairs and greeting our friend Y, who invites us over to pick up our starter. We meet our little group of friends who are kind enough to let us choose our starter first. Of course, we go with Marisso the Chespin, and in the manga, X was actually a huge shut-in who refused to leave his house. He was a child prodigy in the Pokemon battling scene, but all the pressure from reporters was too much for him, and he ended up locking himself away in his house. So Chespin was meant to break X out of his depression and spark his interest in battling again. You want us to call you Loner? So I had put that since X was given the title of Loner, as all the main characters were known for a special trait. Okay, Loner fits you perfectly.
All around me are familiar faces.
And so, with Marisso on the team, we can take out Shauna's Froakie as our journey officially begins, but we don't actually get any new encounters for the first gym. We're stuck with our grass starter, and a team of bug types will decimate our little guy. But we've got a secret weapon, since at level 8, we can learn the move Rollout, which, as long as we don't miss, could potentially sweep through her entire team. So after making our way to Santaloon City, we can head into the gym to take her on. Viola starts the battle with Surskit, as we're leading with Marisso. Surskit actually outspeeds us and hits us with a weak bubble, as Marisso expertly misses his first rollout. But since Surskit can't really touch us, we can just try again on the next turn. The first one does under half, but with the consecutive hits gaining power on each attack, we can just take him out on the next turn. Viola sends out Vivillon next, who outspeeds us and lands a critical hit Infestation, bringing us to the red, so if this rollout doesn't connect, then this is gonna be a wipe. But Marisso the GOAT lands it. We take her out with a quad effective hit, winning us the battle and letting us collect our very first gym badge. With the gym taken care of, we can make our way through the routes and arrive at Lumio City. This city, honestly, I don't know if it's just me, or are the controls here really bad? The camera is constantly jittering, and none of the streets really make any sense. Well, Professor Sycamore is here, and he actually challenges us to a battle with the 3 Kanto starters. Since they're all level 10, Marisso just sweeps through his entire team with rollout, and after the battle, Sycamore even offers us one of the starters to keep, and we end up going with Charmander, whom I named Salome. In the manga, Salome joined X's team as a Charmander, and they actually had a battle here pretty much the same as in the games. This battle somehow sparked something inside X, which was a feeling he had lost after being shut away at home for so long. So after their battle, X decided to accept Marisso onto his team, and he also took Charmander with him to join their journey. A fun little detail about this Charmander to separate him from Blue Starter is that Salome has this cute habit of holding his tail, and this little quirk sticks with him all the way through his evolutions as he grew from Charmander to Charmeleon to even Charizard. And with all this XP, Marisso also hits level 16, so we have an evolution into the ugliest middle stage Pokemon, and honestly the most forgettable one. Quilladin is always the one I forget in Pokedoku, and for good reason, cause this might be one of the worst designed Pokemon in Pokemon history, even worse than Goldengo. Like, there's a certain reputation you need to uphold as a starter, and Quilladin drops the ball hard. But I guess Goldengo also has a reputation as the 1000th Pokemon, and this is like Garbodor or Vanillite levels of ugly. So maybe these guys can meet at the Stupid Ugly Idiot convention and be friends. Now, we've got a couple more routes to clear before facing the next gym leader, so we can make our way through Route 5, where we bump into Corinna and her Lucario. It's a nice way to tease us of the upcoming gym challenges, but she's not our next target. Before we can actually get to him though, we can head through Camphrier Town, and some of these trainers here are honestly gonna be a bigger threat than the actual gym challenge coming up. Like, here's a perfect example. A random trainer here has a level 14 Volbeat with Double Team to boost its evasion, Confuse Ray to make sure we can't do anything, and Moonlight to heal off whatever damage we can actually land. Thankfully, we've got Salome to hard counter him, but seriously, there are so many random trainers with OP Pokemon like this annoying Volbeat that end up being more difficult than the gym leaders themselves. Like, off the top of my head, I remember there's trainers with like Mr. Mime and Kadabra. I think the most infamous is that Karate Girl with the Halucha. So our strategy going forward is to just avoid these battles because these are easy run enders. Well, after dodging these guys, we can take a little detour with Shauna to help the Parfum Palace folks catch their Furfrou. We have a little fireworks show to celebrate, and after all the festivities, we're also given the Pokeflute, meaning we can finally continue on our journey, and with all the trainers around, Salome also evolves into Charmeleon, giving the team another little boost in power. The Pokeflute lets us wake up the sleeping Snorlax, and he was honestly pretty easy to deal with. Marisso sets up a Leech Seed to keep us healthy, and Salome easily handles him with a few Dragon Rages. The Kanto callbacks here are pretty on the nose, but honestly, if we were doing a normal monotype Nuzlocke, this would have been an absolutely goated encounter. Well, after that little pit stop, we can continue making our way through the routes, going through Connecting Cave, and eventually arriving in Ambrit Town. To the south of here, we can take a little detour to Glittering Cave to grab our next encounter. We have to ride on the Rhyhorn to get there, and when we get to Y's team, this guy'll definitely be a struggle. She had a Rhyhorn, but never evolved him. And also her Fletchinder too. For some reason, these later gen Dex holders just stopped doing final evolutions, which is my biggest pet peeve. Like, their teams would have been so much cooler if they all evolved into their final forms. I really don't care about the storytelling part, I just want a cool team to finish off the journey. Inside Glittering Cave, we get another encounter, which is gonna be Kanga the Kangaskhan. In the manga, Kanga and X have been partners since childhood, and Kanga was the team member that actually carried them to victory, making X such a famous trainer. But when X started staying home to avoid the paparazzi, he kind of neglected Kanga. And even Lil Kanga, who was the baby in Kanga's pouch, started picking up on X's reclusive habits and started refusing to leave her mother's pouch too. Eventually, she starts to open up again as X starts to warm up to battling. I guess they took their normal pills, am I right, guys? That's what the mask is! And the three of them are able to bring back the glory days and even Mega Evolve with their strong bond with X. As for the rest of Glittering Cave, it's not a challenge at all, as we team up with Y to take out the Team Flare Grunts. And with the scientists saved, we're free to make our way to the next city and start preparing for the next gym challenge. Before we head into Challenge Grant, there's one last encounter to grab up north of Silage City. Unfortunately, this encounter is a Y exclusive encounter, Y the game, not Y the manga character. You see, X has a Manectric on his team, which is a version exclusive and not obtainable in Pokemon X. But with a little bit of movie magic, we're able to encounter a Houndour, the other version exclusive in our game, and trade it over for an Electrike. So just like that, we now have our fourth team member, Elec the Electrike. In the manga, Elec's first appearance was actually pretty diabolical. He came out of nowhere and stole Y's clothes while the group wasn't looking, just to get them to chase him so he could grab a Megastone from the top of a tree, even evolving into Manectric out of excitement. Of course, a Team Flare member ends up stealing the Megastone, so they're forced to fight against his Tyrunt, which, despite Elec's wild charge, Tyrunt ends up resisting all their attacks thanks to its dragon typing. Tyrunt counters back with an Earthquake, and while it looks like Elec's been knocked out, it turns out Trevor's Flabebe had set up a grassy terrain to have the damage. This gives Elec the chance to bite the Team Flare Grunt's leg while Flabebe sneaks into his pocket to snatch the Megastone back. I like this moment because it feels like the synergies from the Kanto arc, but at the same time, it's lacking a bit of that old school creativity since the grassy terrain tech is just a game mechanic. We don't have stuff like Mr. Mime's barriers just straight up blocking you from passing through it, or like Golduck's innate psychic powers can communicate with the Pokédex. I don't know, I feel like that's something that got a little lost with the later gens, and when I feel like the magic was all with the early gens, this is exactly what I mean. Well, regardless, now that we've taken care of everything, we can finally head into the gym to take on our next gym challenge. Grant leads with Amora, and we start the battle with Kanga. Right off the bat, we can fire off a Fake Out on the first turn for some chip damage, then follow that up with a quad effective Rock Smash to nearly take out Amora. They manage to paralyze us in return, and as Grant heals with a Hyper Potion, we can rinse and repeat and hit another Rock Smash to take out his lead. That leaves only Tyrunt, but since we're paralyzed, Tyrunt ends up para-flinching us down to red health. But it's not a big problem, as a quick switch into Marisso lets us finish off his last Pokemon with a Needle Arm, winning us a pretty simple badge number 2. Guys, very brief intermission here. We are so close to 20k. I'd love for you to be part of the under 20k club, so if you feel like being part of the journey, definitely feel free to subscribe down below, and also you should leave a like while you're at it. Only if you're actually liking the video though. If you're still on the fence, don't worry. I'm kind of the same way when I watch YouTube, so no hard feelings. Alright, let's jump back into the game. With 2 badges under our belt, we can continue making our way through the routes, going through Geosenge Town and bumping into Corinna. We follow her to the Tower of Mastery, the rite of passage for trainers to unlock Mega Evolution, where, to prove our strength, we have to face off against Y and her newly evolved team members. Kanga actually dominates the entire matchup and sweeps through all of them, taking out Meowstic, Absol, and Braixen without breaking a sweat. And that's all the Mega Evolution story for now, so we can make our way over to Route 12, where we can find our next encounter, Root the Pinsir. In the manga, Root actually had a fierce rivalry with the Scyther. When the gang stumbles upon them, they actually find Scyther knocked out on the ground, having had all its life energy drained thanks to Team Flare's doing. Root, being an honorable opponent, was trying to stop the gang from attacking Scyther, even going as far as breaking X's Pokeball with his horns. We even have a surprise cameo as everyone's favorite rival Blue makes an appearance, but Root snaps his Pokeball as well. Bruh. Eventually, X offers Root a spot on the team to take down Team Flare, which he gladly accepts to avenge his friend. So with everything prepared, it's time to head in and take on our next gym challenge. Corinna leads with Mienfoo, and we start with Salome. This is our best counter since Firefang easily does over half, and since we outspeed, Mienfoo can't start boosting with Power Up Punch. Another Firefang takes care of Mienfoo as Corinna sends out her Machoke. This always baits a Rock Tomb, so that's an easy switch into Marisso to tank the hit. The speed drop doesn't matter as much because we can just set up a Leech Seed and slowly whittle away at his health. A quick Needle Arm later, and Machoke goes down, which now leaves her scariest mon, her Hawlucha. A Flying Press is extremely scary, but since it's both fighting and flying type, we can switch into Elec for the resist. Then, as the Luchador sets up a Hone Claws, we can slow him down with a Thunder Wave before firing off 2 Sparks for the KO, meaning we've just successfully navigated around this difficult battle, letting us collect our 3rd gym badge. With Corinna defeated, she finally sees our battling potential and invites us back to the Tower of Mastery for an official challenge to win the ability to Mega Evolve. But we easily defeat her in the scripted fight, with our Mega Lucario taking out hers since we just simply outspeed. This means we now have access to Mega Evolution, and of course the Charizardite, but that's for later since our level cap doesn't let us evolve just yet. Instead, we now have access to Surf, so we can make our way over to the Skiddo Ranch, and yeah, of course we're gonna ride around on the Skiddo here. But after that little detour, we arrive at Coumarine Town, which has this really cool monorail that separates the top and bottom half of the town. So when you enter, you're at the boring lower level, but after taking the monorail, you end up at the much cooler upper half, where you can even see the other half way off in the distance. I don't know, this part is really cool to me, and it adds a lot of character to this otherwise very plain city, so I like it a lot. And in this upper half, we have our next gym challenge to take on, but I don't think this one's gonna be tough. So with no other evolutions or encounters left, we can head in to take them on. Ramos leads with Jumpluff as we're starting the battle with Salome. Right off the bat, he actually outspeeds us and fires off a decent acrobatics, but we can counter right back with the stronger Firefang. And I'm not sure how good that damage roll was, so to play around the crit, I switch into Elec to resist the next one, and on the next turn, we can simply outspeed and take him out with the Spark. This baits out his ace Go-Goat, who sees the super effective Bulldoze, but that's always a safe switch into Root, who can take out his ace with the super effective X-Scissor. And last but not least, his Weepinbell is equally unthreatening, as we can one-shot him with another X-Scissor, meaning we've just easily defeated the 4th gym leader, making that half the Kalos region left to take on. So with the gym badge in hand, we can make our way through Route 13 and head into the power plant, where... Okay, I'm gonna complain a bit. What on earth was Game Freak on when they designed this section? The pacing grinds to a halt as you battle through the slog of grunt after grunt with 2 Pokemon each, and their Pokemon are stuff like Golbat, Mightyena, Swalot, like, gee thanks, this is thrilling gameplay. And then you get to the end just to fight Pitbull with, guess what, a Houndoom, which, okay, thematically, that's not so bad. You're Team Flare, and Houndoom's also a Dark type, but then the final boss, Aliana, has another Mightyena? Bruh. This shit sucks. Well, on the bright side, we get enough XP in this little section that Salome evolves into Charizard, and Marisso also evolves into Chestnut. So with Team Flare cleared out, we can head through the rest of the route, skating our way around as we make our way back to Lumio City. With the power restored, Clement opens up his gym, and once again, since we have no other evolutions or encounters to take care of, we might as well head in to take him on. He leads with Emolga, and the best answer I could find was starting with Kanga. We go for a power-up punch on turn 1, which even though it doesn't do too much damage, it lets us get the +1 attack as Emolga pivots out with the Volt Switch. Clement switches into Magneton, who just so happens to be weak to our fighting attacks, so another hit brings us to +2 as Magneton only sets up the electric terrain. So one more punch and we can take him out, as we're now sitting very pretty at +3. And since we somehow outspeed his ace Heliolisk, we can just knock him out with the +3 Dizzy Punch. And lastly, against his Emolga, who allowed us to even set up all these boosts, we can take him out with the final Dizzy Punch, meaning we've just cleanly swept through Clement, letting us collect our 5th gym badge. So with badge number 5 under our belt, we can make our way towards Route 14, which is the spooky swamp themed route, and we've actually got a new encounter here. We catch Garma the Haunter, and in the manga, Garma actually belonged to Karina's grandfather. By the way, this guy has a name, and his name is Gherkin. Man, I'm straight up Gherkin it, and by it, well, let's just say, my Megastone. Well, in the manga, Garma's first appearance was defending X from an Aegislash's blade, popping out of the ground to intercept the attack. Diantha, Karina, and Gherkin, man, he is straight up Gherkin it right now. They step out to fend off Team Flare, saving our group as Garma would end up bonding with X and join his team. And so, with our final team member, we can make our way through the routes, passing through this little spooky section and arriving at Lavere City. And speaking of Lavere City, our next gym challenge is here, and since she specializes in fairy types, our newest team member Garma will be a great answer, especially that we can even evolve her into Gengar. So with everything prepared, we might as well head in to take her on. Valerie leads with Mawile, and we're actually starting with Salome. My genius 100 IQ strategy is to outspeed and land a critical hit Fire Fang, which easily gets the one-shot. That puts us at an immediate advantage as Valerie sends out her Mr. Mime, but since I taught Salome Shadow Claw, we can chunk Mr. Mime down to the red as she only wastes the turn setting up a light screen. So despite Valerie's hyper potions, we can just crit a Shadow Claw for another easy one-shot. That only leaves her ace Sylveon, but he's actually got decent bulk as he tanks a Fire Fang and fires back with a Swift. We can go for another one, bringing Sylveon down to the yellow, but after we're hit with a charm that lowers our attack to -2, our next attack brings him to the red, prompting the AI to heal. And it's pretty clear that our Fire Fangs aren't really working now. So after trying again for a few turns to get a burn, we eventually switch into Garma, who's not only immune to Swift, but we also resist the Dazzling Gleam. So a couple Shadow Balls later and Sylveon goes down, winning us a fairly simple badge number 6. So with the gym taken care of, Team Flare now decides to take over the Pokeball factory, meaning we need to get roped into another one of their shenanigans. After the slog of grunt battle after grunt battle, we can finally take out the two admins in another underwhelming fight. This one's at least a double battle with a cat and dog theme, but Root can just take out Liepard with an X-Scissor, and Wise Meowstic can tag in to finish off Manectric with a Psychic. No way! Wow, we are lame! Yeah, no duh. All the Team Flare segments so far have been total letdowns. And so, with the factory saved, we can continue on our journey, making our way through the autumn-themed routes and arriving at Dendemil Town. There's not too much to do here, but we can take a little detour through the icy caves up north to stop Team Flare again. This time, they're harassing an Abomasnow, and guess what their admin's team looks like? One single Houndoom.
Bruh.
I don't even know what the point of all this is. Kanga takes care of this potential run ender, and since we boot Team Flare out of the caves, that means the Mamoswine ride is open again, so we've got to make our way over to the actual next town to continue our gym challenge. But truthfully, this one isn't a tough challenge at all, as we've got quite a nice team to handle it. So with the team leveled up and everything else taken care of, we charge straight in to challenge her. Olympia leads with Sigilyph as we're starting with Elec. Right off the bat, we can fire off a Charge Beam, landing a super effective hit and raising our special attack as Sigilyph foolishly sets up a Reflect. That doesn't affect our special attacks, so we can just take her out with another Charge Beam, boosting our attack a second time. So the fight's pretty much over at this point, as Olympia sends out Slowking next, so we can switch over to the more powerful and more accurate Thunderbolt. But Slowking actually tanks the hit and fires back with a Yawn. That means Olympia has a chance to heal with a Hyper Potion, so I use this opportunity to set up a third Charge Beam, getting another boost, but unfortunately that means we're gonna be put to sleep. But we came prepared with a Hell Chesto Berry, meaning we can wake up immediately and take out the Slowking with another Thunderbolt. And since we're now at +3 special attack, her follow-up Meowstic is a simple one-shot from our Thunderbolt, meaning we've just cleanly swept through the battle, letting us collect our 7th gym badge. It's not all good news though, as we're now invited back to Team Flare's headquarters in order to knock out the climax of the story. The Gen 1 callbacks are pretty on the nose, with the hidden entrance like the Celadon Game Corner, as well as the spinning tile puzzles. It is, again, grunts and admins with only 2 Pokemon each, so I'm gonna skip all this stuff and jump straight to the actual challenge of this section. Deep within the depths of their headquarters, we can find Xerneas being held captive by Team Flare, so after freeing them from their prison, we're forced to do this mandatory catch, angering Lysander as he steps out to challenge us with honestly a pretty tricky battle. He leads with Mienshao, who threatens a speedy high jump kick or a boosted acrobatics, so we're leading with Salome. And with all the energy surging around us, the time has finally come. Salome digs deep and unlocks its ancient potential laying dormant in his DNA, changing his form and mega evolving into Mega Charizard. We immediately take to the skies as Mienshao whiffs a high jump kick, and after they take half their health from the recoil, our 95% accuracy kicks in as we miss our attack. But Mienshao only goes for a Swords Dance, meaning we can just rinse and repeat, flying up high again as Mienshao falls for the same trick, crashing from the high jump kick and taking himself out. We're still in the sky as Lysander sends out Pyroar, so we end up connecting on the next turn with the Tough Claw's boosted hit. So after tanking the Hyper Voice, we can finish off the line with a slash for the clean KO. Lysander then sends out Honchkrow, but we're very safe to stay in and fire off one more fly, and since Honchkrow isn't exactly known for his high defense, we can connect for another simple one-shot. That only leaves his ace Gyarados, and after he drops our attack with Intimidate, we've gotta switch out. I switch into Marisso, who with the Leftovers recovery and Spiky Shield to buy us more turns, we can safely set up the Leech Seed to completely wall his ace. And yeah, his Outrages do pack a punch, but the Leech Seed gives us health back, our Spiky Shield chips him every other turn, and our held Leftovers also gives us a little more longevity, meaning eventually we can completely outstall him, finishing off his ace as Team Flare is officially taken care of. Now, unfortunately, Geosenge Town does get blown up pretty bad, but we did our best. Can't win them all, am I right?
Bruh.
Well, with this section of the story taken care of, we can finally continue our gym challenge as we arrive in Snowbell City, and after pulling Wolfric out of Pokemon Village, that opens up the gym for us. And as I alluded to in the intro of this video, Wolfric's not going to be a difficult challenge at all, so with everything prepared, we might as well head in to take him on. He leads with the Bombasnow as we're starting the battle with Salome. This is our OP strat, since Salome can just outspeed and land a quad effective Fire Fang for the one-shot. That goes for a second Pokemon too, as another Fire Fang is another easy one-shot on his Cryogonal. His last Pokemon, however, is a defensive tank, so Avalugg tanks our Fire Fang as he starts setting up with Curse, boosting his defense as his Ice Body ability even heals him from the hail. This is a losing battle for us, but luckily we've got a backup plan with us, as I send out Elec to target him on the special side. We can land a super effective Flamethrower, which gets the very easy one-shot, taking out his ace and winning us our 8th and final gym badge. And just like that, we've now cleared through the main challenge of the game with only one final gauntlet ahead of us. We make our way there, passing through Victory Road, taking out Y one last time as we arrive at the gates of the league. I get the feeling that this might be a tough challenge ahead of us, but I just know our team is itching for a fierce battle. So with everything else prepared, we can head in to take them on. The first challenge in our gauntlet is Seabold, a water-type expert who leads with Clawitzer as we're starting with Elec for the hard counter. Right off the bat, we can immediately fire off a stab super effective Thunderbolt for an easy one-shot. In fact, all of Seabold's team gets taken out by our electric coverage. Gyarados is a quad effective one-shot, we land a crit on Barbaracle for another overkill one-shot, and his last team member Starmie gets outsped and one-shot by a single Thunderbolt, making that a very simple first battle. The next member I decided to challenge was Wickstrom, the Steel-type expert, and this is Salome's time to shine. He leads with Klefki, but a stab super effective Flare Blitz easily one-shots him before he can set up with Spikes. Wickstrom sends out Probopass next, and this guy's got Sturdy and Power Gem, so we've got to bow out. I switch into Elec to eat the Power Gem, baiting an Earth Power and giving us a safe switch into Marisso. Then, using our tried and true Leech Seed strats, we can start chipping away at his health, using Spiky Shield to stall out every other turn, and with the leftovers to give us a bit more health. Probopass eventually goes down to the seeds, as Wickstrom sends out his Ace Aegislash a little early. But Aegislash foolishly goes for a King's Shield, meaning we can set up a Leech Seed and start our stall again. But it's short-lived, since we immediately find an opportunity to fire off a Seed Bomb while he's in Blade form, targeting his weaker defenses to take him out. That only leaves his Scizor, but I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We can set up another Leech Seed, and again, since we have the Spiky Shield chip, plus the Leech Seeds draining a notch of their health each turn, we can very safely outstall him, even switching into Root to finish him off with a strong superpower, winning us the battle and making that 2 down with 2 to go. The third member I chose to fight was Malva, the Fire-type expert. She leads with Pyroar, so that's a great opportunity to lead with Kanga. We start the battle with the Fake Out, getting a little chip before we begin our setup. A power-up punch brings her to half, as we're forced to tank a flamethrower in return, and since she doesn't land the 10% burn, we can just take her out on the next turn with another hit, boosting us to +2 attack as Malva sends out Talonflame. Talonflame actually outspeeds us, which was honestly just an error on my part, cause I don't know, I thought we had enough EVs just naturally collected from our journey to outspeed her, but I guess not. Kanga thankfully tanks the hit, as we can respond back with a +2 return to one-shot her ace. This brings out Torkoal next, but this one we should definitely outspeed, right? Nah, I'm not taking the risk. Torkoal is very bulky on the physical side, so I opt to switch into Gengar for the Levitate immunity. Then, a couple Shadow Balls can 2-shot the turtle, targeting her special defense for more damage. That only leaves her Chandelure, but again, we can just outspeed with another Shadow Ball, getting the clean one-shot and winning us the battle, making that 3 down with only one last challenge to face. And we've saved the best for last, since Drasna and her team of Dragon types won't be such a pushover in terms of type matchups. She leads with Dragalge, as we're starting the battle with Salome. This is a tricky matchup, but we can outspeed and fire off a super effective Earthquake, bringing her to the yellow as Dragalge responds back with a Surf. This is somehow heal range for Drasna, so a few more EQs can burn all her full restores, eventually taking out her lead. That brings out Altaria next, so we can switch it up and go for a Dragon Claw, and since we didn't Mega Evolve, we can also tank the incoming Dragon Pulse. One more Dragon Claw and Altaria goes down as Drasna decides to send out her Ace Noivern. We've definitely got a switch now, so I bring out Garma on the Dragon Pulse, which unfortunately doesn't do enough damage to proc her Citrus Berry. On the next turn, we can outspeed and hit her with the super effective Dazzling Gleam, but that means we need to survive the next hit, which we just barely managed to do. Our Citrus finally procs now, so we can get a little more health back as we just outspeed and take out her ace with another Dazzling Gleam. And against her final Druddigon, we can switch into Kanga, but Drasna's AI is locked into an endless loop of clicking Dragon Tail. Her other 3 moves are all normal or fighting type, so she ends up dragging Garma back out, meaning we have to try again. I send Kanga back out, who tanks another Dragon Tail, this time dragging out Salome. At least this time, I'm hoping she will click something like Chip Away, so I send out Root, but she goes for yet another Dragon Tail. Okay, I'm just gonna put some funny music over this part, because Salome gets dragged out yet again. And of course, I need to switch out again since we're so low health, so I bring out Root for one more try, and this time, Druddigon clicks Dragon Tail again, but fortunately, it drags out Elec this time. We have an opportunity to paralyze her, and guess what Druddigon does? Yep, she clicks Dragon Tail once again. Garma's dragged out, meaning we have to switch out, and Druddigon can only click Dragon Tail, so we have to gamble again as I bring out Root. But Druddigon actually gets fully parried, meaning we can finally fight back. So one Swords Dance and one X-Scissor later, and Druddigon finally goes down, meaning after much trial and tribulation, we have finally defeated all 4 Elite Four members with only one final challenge left in our journey. At last, it's time to head into the final chamber of the Elite Four as the glass platform rises from the floor to bring us there. Champion Diantha greets us, but something doesn't feel right. From the bottom of our bag, I can feel it. Something is calling out to us. After this battle, our Nuzlocke challenge will come to an end, and our journey with these guys will be over. We've been through our ups and downs with this team, but I think we all know what they're capable of. Let's give them what they want. It's time to go all out. Diantha starts the battle with Hawlucha as we're starting the battle with Salome. If we're putting on a show, there's no better candidate than Salome, our first team member capable of Mega Evolving, to take the stage. We immediately Mega Evolve into Mega Charizard and take to the skies as Hawlucha only sets up a Swords Dance. But that's no issue for us, as we connect on the next turn with a Tough Claws boosted hit, scoring an easy one-shot for the first KO of the match. Diantha sends out Tyrantrum next, so Salome can take a little rest. Marisso comes out on the head smash, and since we can resist the hit with our fighting type, we're very safe to stay in, set up the Leech Seeds, and slowly drain his health to take out the Tyrant King. But from the back of the party, I feel someone calling. With a triumphant outcry, Groot switches out of his Pokeball, tanking the incoming Dragon Claw as he reveals he's Mega Evolved as well. Then, with the super effective superpower, we can outspeed and finish off the Lizard for the second knockout of the match. Diantha sends out Aurorus next, trying to target our newfound flying type with her ice moves, but we can tag out into another team member as Kanga hits the field, revealing that she too has Mega Evolved. Lil Kanga hops out of the pouch as the mother and daughter combo tags Aurorus with a fake out power-up punch combo, and with our double hits, we're scoring a free +2 to our attack with each hit. Diantha tries to heal off the damage, but one more power-up punch boosts our attack so much that we can take her out from full health. That's half her team taken care of, as Diantha sends out her tanky Goodra, who's aiming to land a Focus Blast. So that's the perfect opportunity to switch into Garma, who's Mega Evolved into Mega Gengar. Our Dazzling Gleam connects for a big hit, bringing the tanky Goodra to under half, as Goodra fires back with a Dragon Pulse, which Garma easily tanks. Then one more Dazzling Gleam, and her dragon is felled. Diantha's down to 2 Pokemon now, as she sends out her Gourgeist, and while a Phantom Force would be scary, we can safely switch into Elec, dropping her attack with Intimidate, which lets us easily tank the hit, as we can fire back with the super effective Flamethrower, which is another easy one-shot. And just like that, Diantha's down to 1 remaining Pokemon, her Ace Gardevoir, who actually busts out a Mega Evolution of her own as she transforms into Mega Gardevoir. But Elec was prepared for this, firing off a Thunder Wave to permanently cut her speed for the remainder of the battle. Gardevoir fires back with a Moonblast, and we tank it. We live on 31 HP, so we can save Elec's life as we switch out into Kanga. And what better way to bring it home than to have X's childhood partner score the killing blow, as a fake out chips Gardevoir for a chunk of health, and a stab return, boosted by Kanga and Lil Kanga's friendship with X, takes out her remaining HP, meaning we've done it. We've just officially become the new champions of Kalos, proving once and for all that we can indeed beat Pokemon X with X's manga team, and with no lives lost on top of it all. I'm attempting a Hardcore Nuzlocke challenge in Pokemon Y, except I'm only allowed to catch Pokemon that Y from the Pokemon Adventures manga used in her journey. And of course, if any of these guys faint, they've got to be boxed forever. This is made especially hard because we're only going to have 5 team members for the majority of the playthrough, starting with our very first one, who will be the starter Froakie named Croaky. In the manga, while X chose Chespin as his starter, Y instead went with the water type as her partner. He evolves into Greninja later on, the best Pokemon to come out of the X and Y games, so we're gonna have a strong team member for the Elite Four, as long as we can keep him alive. You know, it'd feel like we're a closer crew if we call each other by nicknames. Shut your goofy ass up. But sure, you can call us Yvonne, since that was her full name in the manga. So after taking out Shauna with a few bubbles, we can make our way through the first route to catch our other encounter for this section, a fletchling named Fletchy. Fletchy was actually Y's very first Pokemon, which she evolved into Fletchinder later on in a Sky battle, but they finished their journey together at level 34 and never evolved into Talonflame. Since we only need one more level to evolve, once we hit level 35, I'm gonna allow this evolution as a natural progression to her journey cause, Like, what's a Fletchender supposed to do in the Elite Four? And with our 2 team members, we can clear our way through Santaloon Forest, and okay, I gotta hand it here. The rivals walking around us is really cool. We make it out in one piece, arriving in the next town and home of our very first gym challenge. Viola is the bug type expert, but with Fletchling on our team, I wasn't worried at all. Fletchy takes out not only her lead Surskit, but also finishes off her ace Vivillon with a few pecks, getting us a very quick and easy badge number 1. And with our first badge obtained, we can basically catch the rest of our team now, but we've got to make our way over. Our first stop is the Parfum Palace, where we help catch their Furfrou and watch a fireworks show as a thank you. The entrance fee will be $1,000 per person. Yeesh, this is how the rich get richer. Well, they get richer because they use loopholes to avoid paying taxes, but you're close enough, Shauna. So with the Snorlax taken care of, we can head through Connecting Cave and arrive at Route 8, which just happens to be the home of our next encounter, an Absol named Sol. Absol was caught in the same chapter that X caught as Pinsir, and the 2 of them would Mega Evolve at the same time later on. We also have access to Glittering Cave, but we need to ride on Rhyhorn to make our way over. It's a little spoiler for our next encounter, as inside the cave, we can catch a Rhyhorn named Rai as our 4th team member. Rai, I've got some problems with Rai. So he started as the racing Pokemon, kind of like how in the games you have a Rhyhorn chilling outside your house, but later on, Y decided to officially keep Rhyhorn on her team. He would help in fighting off Team Flare, but they ended their adventures at level 42. And guess what level Rhyhorn evolves? That's right, exactly 42. So canonically, I won't be evolving into Rhydon or Rhyperior, since that shows Y must have hit the B button on the evolution screen and didn't want him to evolve further. We have one last encounter before the next gym, and that's gonna be an Eevee named Vivi. In the manga, Y really wanted to evolve her Eevee, but since the Pokemon Ami stuff was still pretty new, she couldn't figure out how to do it. Later on, while Y was flying in her wingsuit, Team Flare ambushed her with a Sliggoo, and Vivi was the only Pokemon who could help. In the heat of the moment, she evolved into Sylveon, and thanks to her fairy immunity, she completely walled the Sliggoo to take him out. That's all our encounters for the run, so we can head into Silage City for the next gym badge. And getting Sylveon would be great for this upcoming fight, since we'd have a super effective matchup into his Tyrant, but unfortunately, we caught this guy at level 20, meaning he doesn't have any fairy moves to let him evolve. So as Grant leads with Amora, we have to call on Croaky to counter him with our super effective Water Pulse. Amora does put up a good fight, but that's nothing our starter can't handle as we finish off his lead. Tyrant comes out next, who tries to paraflinch us with Bite, but that actually puts us in Torrent range and lets us fire back with a superpowered Water Pulse. It does a good deal of damage, but we can't stay in anymore. I bring out Absol, and thanks to our higher stats from being a single stage Mon, we can outspeed and fire off a Stab Bite to finish off his final Mon, winning us the battle and letting us collect badge number 2. Before we continue, I have something very important to say. There have been some recent reports of the Masked Man from the Johto arc popping up all over the world. Eyewitnesses claim he is specifically targeting non-subscribers of the MagnusPKMN channel. By the looks of it, 11.5% of you are safe. However, if you are in the 88.5% who are not subscribed, I urge you to please subscribe quickly for your own safety. Thank you. The next destination we've got to head toward is the 3rd gym, and the gym leader herself actually comes to greet us as we're walking over. We can take out our Lucario pretty easily, but fun fact, she doesn't even use Lucario in her gym fight. If she did, then it would give us a little more trouble, but with her current lineup, it's gonna be a quick and easy sweep. Vivi evolves into Sylveon too after learning the fairy move Charm, so with an extra resist on her team, we've got this fight in the bag. Corinna starts with Mienfoo, but Fletchy can learn Aerial Ace, so we can very easily one-shot her. Her second Pokemon is a Machoke, who's carrying the quad-effective Rock Tomb, so this is a matchup I can't really risk. Instead, we can bring out Vivi to drop his attack with Charm, neutering him to -6 before we send Fletchy back out to take him out with Aerial Ace. And that just leaves Hawlucha, but it's a total Fletchy sweep as we just two-shot her ace, giving us a super easy badge number 3. With Corinna recruited, she pulls us to the Tower of Mastery for the Mega Evolution side plot, but we can't even utilize it in our run. Our only viable Mega Evolution is Absol, but the Absolite is a post-game item, so we can't use that. And obviously, Mega Greninja doesn't exist yet, and even if it did, I'm not doing your stupid paywalled Nintendo Online to unlock it. We also get Surf unlocked, which not only gives Croaky a huge upgrade in our water stab, but we can also surf over to the other side of Kalos for the 4th gym. Just really quickly, dude, this water background looks so good here. This and the brilliant diamond water ripples, I don't know, somehow they really nailed this effect and it always makes me thirsty. Yeah, at this point, we got very lost in the water routes, but we eventually made it to Coumarine City to continue our journey. I know I mentioned it in my video playing as X, but pay attention to the landscape and the buildings here, right? I'm gonna take the monorail to go to the upper half of the city, and look at this, dude. It's like a shrunken down version of where we just were.
Someone cooked here.
Well, just like our last gym battle, Fletchy's gonna have to do some carrying here. But we're equipped with a brand new move, which is the Acrobatics TM given to us in this very city. Normally, it's 55 base power, but since we're purposely not holding an item, the move gets doubled to 110 base power. So Jumpluff gets one shot, Go-Goat actually tanks it on a sliver, but he takes himself out with takedown recoil. And lastly, Weepinbell, I use this chance to get some roosts in, but he also gets one shot, wrapping up a very straightforward badge number 4 and making that half the Kalos region left to conquer. To wrap up this section, Fletchy even reaches level 35 and evolves into his final form, so we're gonna have a powerful Talonflame for the endgame as an extension of Y's journey. At this point, Team Flare's doing some stuff with the region's power supply, so we can track them down in the deserty Route 13 to clear through their trainers. Honestly, it's not a tough gauntlet at all, everyone has like 1 or 2 Pokemon, so we can just snowball through them. Croaky also reaches his final form thanks to all the XP, so we're looking pretty good going into the 5th gym. And since we solved the Team Flare issue, the power comes back to Lumiose, so Clement finally opens his gym for us. Rai helps us clear through all the trainers, and we're gonna need to rely very heavily on him. Our 2 strongest members have to take a backseat for this one, so as Clement leads with the Emolga, we can send out our star player to not only tank his Aerial Ace, but also fire back with a Rock Tomb, nearly one-shotting him. That puts Clement on an endless loop of healing, so a few rocks later, and we can find the high roll for the one-shot. That brings out Heliolisk, and since he's carrying Grass Knot, we have to be really careful. We can bring out Vivi as a safe option, and fun fact here, Grass Knot actually procs our Rocky Helmet. A couple Moonblasts later, and we can win this 1v1, leaving only his Magneton. But that's a safe switch for Rai to come back out and break the sturdy with a Rock Tomb, lowering their speed and letting us outspeed to take him out with a Dig, winning us our 5th gym badge. We can make our way through the swampy Route 14, including stopping by the lone house here to talk to this random old man. I remember the first time I came here, I was pretty confused what this was about. I don't think it's mentioned anywhere else, it's just like a random spooky story? A horde of faceless men, ooh. Now then, since I told a wonderful story that will always haunt you, would you be so kind as to tip me? Ah, this guy was just hustling. Would you like to give a tip?
So I'm gonna pay you $100 to fuck off.
If you don't, you might see something really scary.
He's pulling his cock out!
Well, after escaping that freak show, we can arrive at Lavera City for the next gym challenge. Lavera is kind of an underrated city, like this is definitely the predecessor for Balanleia, right? With the fairy mushroom kind of motif going on. Either way, it looks really nice and homey. What's not homey though is the next gym battle, which takes place in this creepy dollhouse environment. Valerie's the gym leader here, and she specializes in fairy types, as we're leading with Fletchy. We don't have the best team to deal with our fairies, but at the very least, we can use our super effective flame charge to 2-shot our lead without taking too much damage. Mr. Mime comes out next, but we can use our no item boosted acrobatic strategy again to take her out. She does manage to set up a reflect, so it takes a few more turns to break through that defense boost, but with Roost to keep us healthy, we can stall out the 5 turns of reflect to finish her off. And that only leaves her Sylveon, but we can go into our own Sylveon for the mirror matchup to take her out with Moonblast, winning us our 6th gym badge. With the gym cleared out, our next stop is the Pokeball Factory to stop Team Flare from doing whatever it is they're trying to do this time. I swear, every evil team just has to show up at some random industrial place, like Team Rocket with Silphco and Radio Tower, Team Aqua with the Weather Institute, Galactic with, I guess, the Valley Windworks building. I don't know if you count the Eterna or Veilstone ones, because those are kind of like their corporate buildings. Oh, and also Plasma with Cold Storage, and the entire Pokemon League if you want to count that. Fun fact, you actually don't need to battle a single grunt here. You can just walk straight past them, like they're trying to take over a factory, but if you avoid their direct eye line, they just let you go. Hey, I'm not complaining, you know? Less battling means less chances for a random crit. We make our way to the end of the factory, where we are face to face with the Team Flare admins. After a quick team up with X to humble them, we get rewarded with the Master Ball as a thank you. We won't be using it immediately since this is gonna be our final team, but we do have a good use for it coming up. With Team Flare taken care of, we can move on to Route 15, and man, the autumn colors here really look amazing. Especially the upscaled graphics here on my very real Nintendo 3DS. The orange trees, the leaves on the ground, it's easily one of my favorite routes in the entire game. And then, just a few minutes later, we're suddenly on the snowy Route 17, clearing through the snow on the back of a Mamoswine through a full-on blizzard. I gotta be real here, the biome shift is pretty jarring. Like 5 minutes ago, we were in pumpkin spice mode, and now I'm freezing to death on the back of a Mamoswine. But I will hand it to Game Freak, each route has a really strong personality, and they are genuinely memorable. It's just too bad the games themselves aren't really that memorable, am I right? Well, that brings us to Anastar City, which also happens to be the home of our next gym challenge. This one's led by Olympia, the psychic type expert, and with 2 dark types on her team, I'm feeling pretty confident about this one. She leads with Sigilif, as we're starting with Soul. We immediately set up a sword stance, while Sigilif counters back with the Reflect. It's a nice try, but a single Night Slash can still break through the defense boost and one-shot him. Olympia sends out Slowking next, and thanks to that Reflect still being up, she actually manages to tank her hit. Luckily, she's only got Power Gem to hit us, so on the turn she heals, I take the opportunity to stack a second sword stance. That guarantees that our Night Slash will one-shot him now, and for her Ace Meowstic, it's of course another simple one-shot, giving us a quick and easy Absol sweep for badge number 7. Before we can grab our final gym badge, we've got some unfinished business to take care of. It's about time we finish off Team Flare for good. They've been scheming in the background for a while now, so we've got to track down their secret hideout in this random-ass cafe in Lumio City. Thank God they put that little red circle with the flag on the mini-map starting in Gen 7, because I think I visited every cafe in the city before finding the right one. Turns out, it's this random grunt outside the cafe that's supposed to hint that. Maybe I'm just slow, I don't know. Behind this bookshelf, we can find the entrance to their secret base and make our way towards the heart of their operations. Lysander is here and tries to stop us, but since this is his downgraded team compared to the one later, I'm gonna skip over this one and continue through the spinning tile maze, which is honestly the real difficulty of this section. On our way down, there are a few battles against the Team Flare admins, but at this point, our level caps jump so high that none of them are really much of a threat. We reach the bottom of their headquarters, and we even find AZ locked up here. With him being canonically 9 feet tall, I'm just imagining Team Flare struggling to contain him and put him in their car.
Look, I'm under what? Have a look at the headlock here. See that chap over there? Get your hand off my penis! This is the bloke who got me on the penis before. Why did you do this? What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal? How dare get your hands off me? Ta-ta! And farewell.
He tells us his tragic backstory, nothing to do with that succulent Chinese meal, but I guess Team Flare's not too happy with it. They immediately get ready to launch their ultimate weapon, completely destroying Geosenge Town in the process. Great job, fellas, great work. You know, for a guy obsessed with eternal life and all that, Lysander doesn't seem to really care much about the actual people living at Geosenge. I just hope he doesn't do anything drastic, like, I don't know, blowing up the town using the ultimate weapon. Surely Lysander won't do that, right? Well, we ride the elevator down to the bottom floor to figure out what they're really doing, and we're met with a giant tree-looking thing behind a glass wall. Before we can even process it, Lysander challenges us again to try and stop us from stopping him. This one's still not his final team, so I'm not gonna spend too long on it. It was basically just a Fletchy sweep. So with Lysander temporarily out of the way, we headed deeper underground with our friends to figure out what that tree was. After clearing through the last grunts in the basement, we find ourselves staring at a singular button at the base of the tree. Obviously, we go to press it, but it seems that's woken up whatever that thing is in the machine. The whole room starts to shake as all we can do is watch as lights start pulsing around the tree, and from the center of the object, Xerneas bursts out in a blinding flash. That's right, I kinda lied earlier. We're not playing Pokemon Y, we're actually playing in Pokemon X. In the manga, Y's the one who caught Xerneas, naming him Zerzer and using him a little bit in the Team Flare confrontation, so I wanted to catch him to give us a helping hand too. I usually don't like using legendaries, but considering our team's down to 5 and one of them is literally a Rhyhorn, I'm gonna cut myself some slack this time. And with the Master Ball that we got from the Pokeball Factory, we might as well use it for this catch. And now it's finally time for that Lysander fight. He challenges us to a battle, and this dude even puts on a Robo suit to take us on. Okay, side tangent here, I saw a theory a while back about how Clement's little hand gadget things on his outfit could be connected to Lysander's suit. Like, maybe he was working with him, or Team Flare just stole the design. I feel like there might have been some truth to that in like early development, and they just kept it because it looked cool, I don't know. Well, Lysander leads with Mienshao, and since we accepted Zerzer onto our party, he gets thrown to the front of the team. We tank a high jump kick thanks to our fairy type and fire back with a Moonblast for an easy one-shot. And I think this kind of breaks his AI, cause he sends out Honchkrow right after, so yeah, I'm not gonna say no to another free kill. Honestly, if we didn't have Zerzer, I'd just use Sylveon here for the same effect. Next up is Pyroar, so I swap over to Croaky to tank the Fire Blast. One Surf later, and Pyroar's down too. That just leaves the ace, his Mega Gyarados. But since it's now got a Dark type thanks to Mega Evolving, we can bring out Solsoul to finish the job. One clean X-Scissor later, and Gyarados goes down, winning us the final Team Flare battle and wrapping up the villain story arc. Well, kinda. Even after all that, Team Flare still fires off the ultimate weapon. The giant crystal collects its energy and shoots a huge beam into the sky, but something's not right. The beam comes straight back down, blowing up the weapon, and I'm sure killing everyone in the village. Phew, I'm so glad you're all safe. I think he might have just killed everyone here. We might want to check on that first. Well, they can figure that out. We've still got to take care of our final gym challenge. After dragging Wulfric out of Pokemon Village, he finally agrees to head back and open his gym for one last challenge. He starts things off with Abomasnow, but we've got Fletchy to start the battle. And it's a super clean sweep thanks to our fire typing. Flame Charge is a quad effective hit, meaning Abomasnow gets quickly dispatched. Cryogonal's got paper thin defenses, so another Flame Charge one-shots him too. And lastly, against Avalugg, I play it safe since the Icebergs actually got good defenses. So instead, I bring out Croaky to tank the ice move, then we can hit back with the special surf to two-shot him, finishing off his final mon and winning us our 8th and final gym badge. And that is basically all we've got to do before we head in for the final gauntlet ahead of us. Victory Road is not a problem for us, and neither is the final battle against X, meaning we've got nothing left to do but head in and take on the final gauntlet of the run. And truthfully, we've cooked up some really devious strats for these guys. The first one I took on was Malva, honestly for that free XP. Croaky starts the battle and sweeps through her entire team, taking out Pyroar with a Scald, outspeeding Talonflame thanks to our level up for another one-shot. Torkoal obviously gets outsped in one shot, and lastly, Chandelure is double weak to both our Water and Dark Stab, making that a very easy first battle. The next one I decided to take on is honestly a little weird, since I usually save this one for last, but since we've got 2 fairy types on our team, I felt pretty safe to knock it out. Drasna starts with Dragalge, but Vivi actually learns Psyshock via TM, so we can take out her lead pretty easily. And then the rest of her team falls very easily to a couple Moonblasts, including her Altaria, her Noivern, who I thought would put up a better fight, and lastly her Druddigon for the final one-shot, making that our second Elite Four battle taken care of. The third one I chose to do was Wixstrom, since we've got a good answer to his steel types with our Talonflame. Flame Charge is kind of a weak move, but factoring in the stab and the super effective, it's not that bad. Klefki can't touch us either, so we can finish him off in a few turns as Wixstrom then sends out Probopass. This one actually does put a stop to our plans, since he's got Sturdy to always survive a hit, and also Power Gem to hit us for a quad effective hit. Instead, we bring out Croaky, who can tag him with a decent Surf, but an unfortunate discharge does get the para. Still though, Absol can tag in and finish him off, but then that baits out Aegislash. He's in his shield form, so it'll be tough to break through that. So we instead go into Sylveon on the guaranteed Sacred Sword, and with the weaker Blade form baited out, we can take him out with a Shadow Ball before he can use Iron Head. And that's what I mean with a bad AI. Like, if this was a human, then he just used King's Shield to switch forms, but the AI probably saw a kill with Iron Head and went for it. Well, that only leaves Caesar, which Fletchy can come back in to clean up, putting us at 3 down with only 1 to go. We've saved the most awkward matchup for last, as we're facing off against Seabold and his water types. We don't have an easy matchup for his team, but what we do have is a Xerneas with a certain overpowered move and held leftovers. By using Geomancy, we can double not only our special attack and defense, but also our speed, allowing us to outspeed everything on his team. Clawitzer gets one-shot by a Thunderbolt. Gyarados, of course, since he's quad weak, gets one-shot. Barbaracle, honestly, I had to do a double take because I thought this was shiny, but he also gets outsped and one-shot. And lastly, his Starmie also meets the same fate, winning us the battle with an admittedly pretty overpowered strat, but that's the only time I'll abuse it. With all 4 members defeated, the big doors swing open as the final chamber is available to us. We head in with only 1 objective left: to defeat Diantha and become the new champion of Kalos. The floor rises up as we're suddenly face to face with our last challenge. After this battle, that's gonna be it with our team, so let's make it count. Diantha starts the battle with Hawlucha as we're starting with Vivi to directly counter her. She seems to want to set up with Swords Dance, so we can go aggro with Moonblast for the first KO. She then immediately sends out Tyrantrum, I guess still on that broken AI from before. So yeah, I'll take a free second KO in this final fight. Finally, Diantha wises up and sends out Aurorus, and expecting some kind of ice move, we can bring out Croaky to sponge it. Instead, she sets up a light screen, meaning our Scalds are gonna do less damage now, so I've gotta play around that. I know she's trying to use Thunder here, so we can safely bring out Rai, who's just been chilling in the back to be immune to it. Then, of course, she's not going to use Thunder again, so we can bring out Croaky, then back into Rai on the Thunder again, rinse and repeat until the light screen finally wears off. One last switch into Croaky, and we can finish off our Sauropod with a Scald, making that 3 down with half our team left in our way. Diantha sends out Goodra next, so that's a pretty easy switch into Zerzer to take her out with Moonblast. Look, I promised no Geomancy this time, and I'm gonna stick to that. Gourgeist is the penultimate Mon, so we can bring out Soul for some action, as a single Night Slash is another easy one-shot. And that only leaves 1 final Mon. Gardevoir hits the field, copying our pressure ability and ready to Mega Evolve, and we've got to make a decision here. This Pokemon can hit half our team for super effective damage, so 1 wrong switch and we could easily lose a team member. Since this is definitely Moonblast though, I decided to bring out Fletchy so we could use some rare tech. Steel Wing is not a very common move in Nuzlocks, but it is still a 70 base power steel move that we can utilize for big damage. It's not enough for the one-shot, meaning Gardevoir can hang on and fire back with a Thunderbolt. And Fletchy hangs on. We survive with only 5 HP, and not only do we live, but we dodge the para, meaning with 1 more Steel Wing, we can finish off her final team member, winning us not only a well-fought champion battle, but also winning us the entire run. Hey, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you're looking for your next video to watch, I would highly recommend this manga playthrough. I promise if you like this video, then you'll like this one too. A huge shout out to my channel members. It's only 99 cents a month and you get your name included at the end of the video. Alright, that's all I've got. See ya.